welcome to the NBA Draft.
Do you want a podcast that discusses and breaks down your favorite prospects all the way until they hear their name called on draft night?
Luka Doncic.
Welcome to the home of NBA Draft Prospects.
Words can't describe how I feel right now.
This is the Prospect Pod, presented by Hardwood Hoops Central, only on YouTube.
Welcome back to the Prospect Pod. I am your host, Stephen Barnhart of Hardwood Hoops Central. Follow me on Twitter at HW Hoops Central. Let me get all the housekeeping notes out of the way. So, for those of you who are subscribed to our YouTube channel, first of all, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for enjoying the content. Thank you for everything that you do to make the content even somewhat itty-bitty little bit relevant. Obviously, this is the time of the year where most people are going to care about the content that I post, the things that I talk about as it pertains to the NBA draft, and we are just a day or two away from the beginning of Summer League. Now, many of you have made comments such as the audio connected to the video on the videos on the channel are out of sync. Well, that would be a complaint for NSTAT. NSTAT is a video database library, whatever you want to call it, that the fine folks at NSTAT, much like you'd see with Synergy, they upload video clips. And then I download those video clips, make them into videos for you fine people. So, in other words, I can't control the quality in which they post things. And I'll be very honest with you. There's times where I'm watching film on their site and all of a sudden a commercial plays, like an actual TV commercial. So if you ever have that happen while you're watching any of our videos, just know that I probably didn't realize there was a commercial that was going to pop up in the middle of that video. Had I known, I probably would have edited it out. Or, you know what, maybe I was just too lazy to because it was 11 o'clock at night and I just said, you know what, I got to get these up. And that's that. So, in any event, here's what I would tell you. The audio that they upload that I eventually download to share with you all is out of my control. So, I don't ever watch film with the sound on. Okay? I've been in plenty of film sessions, and I've never watched anything with sound on. So, yeah, I would recommend watching it. That's why I call it, film sessions. People, you should call it highlights. It's like, listen, highlights are meant to highlight key plays or highlight plays within the game. Nobody's just going to watch a normal defensive play and be like, oh, that's a highlight. No, that's film. And when I put it together in large chunks like I do, an hour, 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours, that's film. That's a film session. Okay, that's a full game. If you sit down and watch an entire NBA game, okay, and, obviously TV commercials, timeouts play a factor. You're looking at 2.5 hours. That's a full game. So in any event, it's not highlights. Stop telling me to try to call it highlights. You're an idiot. Thank you. So yes, there's nothing I can do about the audio. I'm not going to not call them highlights. I stopped calling them scouting videos because I got the impression people were pissed that they were waiting to open up the film so I could spoon feed them what's right and wrong with every player they're about to watch. There's nothing wrong with the Draft Express style of the video. But that's not my purpose. As many of you who have been along for the ride for the channel this is my fourth draft now where I've put up film. You know that I just do this to be a resource to you all. I'm a resource to other YouTube channels. Unbeknownst to me, I just kind of find it out in passing, but I end up being a resource because a lot of people don't have access to Synergy, or if they do, it's they're sharing somebody's password and they can only get on when like some of these sites and whatnot, they track your IP, and if you're logging in from too many different places, yada yada yada. That Synergy does that. NSTAT not so much. But At least to my understanding. Maybe they do. I don't know. I don't share my password because, frankly, I pay too much money. And frankly, if you want my film, if you want all the access to everything they provide, then you should pay for it too. So anyway, having said all of that, here's what I would like. Before we get too far down the road here, about 5.5 minutes in, please do me a favor. Look for Hardwood Hoop Central NBA Draft Green Room on whatever podcast service your platform you listen to. So if it's iTunes, Spotify, especially those two platforms, please go rate, follow, subscribe, leave comments, especially on iTunes. I would love to, get this thing going on iTunes. Some jackass left a negative rating is my very first rating, and since then it's kind of dragged the rating down. So here's what I'd like to get past that jackass's comment or negative rating. Here's what I'd like to do. Here's what I'd like to kindly ask you to do for all the free content and time that I put into doing this. I would simply like to ask that at least 30 of you, at least 30 of you, go onto iTunes, find our podcast, Hardwood Hoop Central's NBA Draft Green Room. Yes, it's a mouthful, but find it. And when you find it, and it'll be the link will be in the description to all the podcast platforms. Easy for me to say. If you're listening to this on YouTube, but if you're not, and you're listening to this on iTunes, most people are going to either listen on Apple or Android, and most people are either doing Spotify or if you're a hardcore Apple user, then you're going to do Apple Podcasts. So if you're on iTunes, go on iTunes, find the podcast, and rate it, comment, leave good comments. Don't be a jackass, okay? I'll find you. No, I actually won't, because if I could find that other guy, I probably would have pounded him. Anyway, so having said that, please, because that would mean a great deal to me. I'm not trying to get this podcast to being some international hit, but look, you never know. And obviously, I want to put my work out there for the world to see and listen to and take seriously. I joke with you all during this kind of intro portion of it because we're going to be sitting here talking about at least 30 prospects, and so this is going to be long. And it's 8:30 at night East Coast on a Sunday night. And you all have been waiting extremely patiently for me to put out anything with, draft thoughts and recaps. And as I've mentioned on the channel, I've had some personal things I've had to deal with. So that has kind of delayed me doing any sort of reaction or anything like that. And plus, to be frank, I've wanted to go back and watch film on some guys. And even while I'm doing this recording, I'm probably going to, look at some film as I'm talking about certain guys. So anyways, please go find the podcast on whatever platform you choose to listen to podcasts. Rate, comment, follow, whatever will allow you to do it, please. That would mean a great deal. And obviously let people know about it. I'm not asking you to leave a comment that you don't personally believe. If you think the podcast sucks, then you know what? Hey, so be it. I do this all on my own. Nobody does this with me. Nobody creates any of my content for me, with me, on my behalf. I say we. I've always said we when it comes to Hardwood Hoop Central because over the years I've had other people scouting with me, working with me, and so I always approach this as if it's a team thing because I never know who's going to work with me in the present or in the future. So I always want to make this seem like it's not just a me venture, but a we venture. So having said all that, let's move on. And so, part of really what I want to focus on, really and truly, is just the first round. I could do, second round guys if you all want me to, but I think I'd probably do that in a second podcast because, to be honest with you, I'm not going to. I wouldn't talk about every second round guy. It's not that they're not worth it or anything like that. Absolutely, they are. First and foremost, congratulations to everybody. I don't care if you signed an Exhibit 10 contract. Congratulations. It's a hell of an accomplishment. Nobody will ever be able to take away from you. regardless of what your professional future holds for you. So having said that, if you all want me to do second round individuals, I can certainly put some stuff together and do a separate podcast. But I thought for time's sake and really just sake of my own sanity, so I could actually get this out and so I can actually make you all happy, that I would just focus on the first round. Some guys I'll probably go a little more in depth on than others because, you know, I kind of geeked out on certain guys' film more than others. Others I feel like are probably a little more self-explanatory, and there's so much out there being talked about that you know, I may not go in as great a detail. And frankly, some guys I really want to go back and watch some film on, not because I don't know their game, but because I really want to focus on more nuance. And I've been doing that over the last several weeks on a number of guys, but when you go in to do that, you're not just watching, you know, you're watching the film a little bit differently. You're going back, you're pausing, you know, you're looking at things, you know, very much slowed down, you know, when you're breaking down film that way. So it's not just sitting there watching it as you would probably do, you know, with the content we put on YouTube. So with all of that said, enough rambling. Let's get on with it. Pistons get the first overall pick, and I think they made the right decision. It's hard to bypass Cade Cunningham. Let's just say it plain and simple. Obviously, there's a lot being said about him, have already been said about him for a long time. So there's really nothing I'm going to say to you that's going to be new. Look, the reason it's tough to pass up on him isn't just a size thing. It's just everything that comes with it. The feel for the game, the shooting splits that you see, the way in which he can get his shot off, the way in which he can play with pace and poise already, and he doesn't get sped up very often. Obviously, he can have some high turnover games and whatnot, but he's also got a very high usage rate. You know, and that's going to be typical of guys of his ilk at the college ranks. You know, you're going to see guys with high usage. So, you know, I think they made the correct decision. You know, I'm a big believer. You know, the second guy that would have been theoretically on a big board if I ever put one together, which I don't, because I don't work for an NBA team. I'm not going to be drafting anybody, so I don't really see the need to put together mocks and big boards. I mean, if I'm working for a team, that's completely different. But in any event, you know, the Pistons just need to get better in a lot of areas. And so being able to bring in somebody who can be, you know, a generational talent, you know, that's a need. That can be a welcome need for all the teams. No team is trying to think to themselves, "Oh, we're already really good." You know, I mean, you look at the Lakers; they're still looking to add talent. They add Russell Westbrook, and you know, even the best are looking to continue to get better. So, you know, the Pistons adding Cade. You know, folks are worried about how he's going to fit with Killian, and look, Killian is fine off of the ball. You know, Cade, the same thing. Those guys, you have to realize something, and that was a lot of people's first reactions. Well, what's going to happen with Killian? It's like, look, if you don't realize in today's modern NBA that you can have 2 to 3 guards on the floor at a time, I don't really know what to tell you. You know, watch more of the NBA. And I'm not saying that to be an asshole or anything like that. It's just, you know, a lot of these guys are coexisting on the floor that are multiple ball handlers, multiple creators, multiple shot makers, etc. So Cade, and to Cade's credit, I mean, he'll figure out a way to make it work. You're talking about a guy who's a high IQ guy that I feel like can play with just about anybody. So, you know, right choice for the Pistons. You know, looking at the Rockets, Jalen Green tended to be, I mean, this is just kind of perusing through NBA draft Twitter. You were either a Jalen Green guy or you weren't. You know, look, I have no problem with Jalen Green. I certainly would have went the Evan Mobley route, but I'm biased because I've been a huge fan of Evan Mobley's game, since the Compton Magic days of, being able to see him play on the AAU circuit. And so I'm a bit biased, at least in that regard. But we'll talk about Evan more in a second. As far as Jalen goes, look, I would have went Evan because that's a team that going forward certainly could use as much of a defensive presence on the interior as they can get. Obviously they have Christian Wood there, but obviously at some point you're going to need insurance policies and whatnot. And let me look up Christian Wood's situation in Houston as far as his contract and see what we got going, because it takes big men a little bit of time. It's not just you just jump in the league and everything's all hunky-dory. So Christian has got the upcoming season 21-22 still under contract, has the following year 22-23 under contract, and then 23 he is a free agent. So it would have been nice to be able to have an Evan Mobley kind of come along for that 2 years, because again, to acclimate as a big, it takes some time. Obviously, you got to put on some size, and really, it's a tough position to play at center. And when you're someone like Evan Mobley, especially, who can play all over the floor, who can cover a lot of ground, I just thought it would have been a nice insurance policy should they not decide to move forward with Christian Wood, and whatnot. So, having said all that, that's kind of part of the reason I would have went in that direction. But with Jalen Green, clearly you're getting an explosive scorer. He's got the athleticism that is pretty much unmatched in this draft in terms of bounce, in terms of just exploding to the rim. He can certainly show you flashes of skill, but also can be very violent at the rim. He's an excellent cutter, and he can be excellent in transition. He's an above-average three-point shooter. I thought he looked, as far as his shot was concerned, looked pretty good. Playing for the G League Ignite, quick release, NBA range. Certainly a guy who scores with confidence. A quick twitch athlete. Can really catch and go. Keep defenders off balance with change of direction and explosion. He basically, once he gets top speed and once he gets going downhill, he can be tough to stay in front of and contain. I think for me, getting him to be more fluid and a little more comfortable in the mid range, on pull ups and floaters, there's some of that there, but he's not as polished in the middle of the floor as he is in the perimeter and being as a slasher. In terms of shot selection, tends to have a tendency to, put up long threes that weren't necessary. Looking at some of his shot tendencies, gets a little tunnel vision, if it were, in terms of just deciding this is what I'm going to do, just predetermining what he's going to do on a particular possession. But I think overall, just in terms of his scoring, and it's tough to deny him in that way. But to me, it wasn't worth going number 2 overall when you talk about a team that was pretty bad defensively last year, especially when Christian Wood was out. I've said it on the pod before, but I used to, when I would gamble NBA games, Houston was one of the teams I'd pick on in terms of point spread, because I always just knew, that on a given night, they were very capable, especially when Christian was out, very capable of just getting skunked off the floor. And it's just, and to me, looking at Jalen on the defensive end, there's just a lot of undisciplined mistakes, not always consistently in stance, get blown by a little too easy, can give up on plays, reaches and overplays at times, gambles, off balance, trying to close out on guys or contain guys, But then there's the performative aspect of Jalen Green in terms of, being able to block shots on the move. Obviously has, I think, a 6'10" wingspan. There's going to be times where he's going to be able to, make it help side block or chase down block or something that's going to, show off his athleticism. That's going to, make you pay attention. But in terms of the actual, in terms of actually putting it all together defensively, I don't see it right now. And obviously, all these guys that we're going to talk about are young, and there's just plenty of time. But again, that's what kind of separated Evan for me as being the clear, second best prospect in this draft. So I think ultimately too with Jalen, learning to play make for others and improving on his decision making, being able to read the floor and create for others. There's still a lot there to be worked on. He can get downhill, get in the paint, get 2 feet in the paint, and be, somebody who can find guys in the interior. When you consider, how often he's going to look to attack, that can certainly be an option where once he gets downhill, finding guys in the dunker spot or finding guys on, on lobs and whatnot, where he can certainly, be a playmaker for guys. And then obviously, again, getting him out in transition is always going to be helpful. But there's a lot here that still needs to be polished and worked on and matured. But again, we're talking about guys who are 18 and 20 years old, basically. So it is tough to bang on guys this early. But at the same point in time, again, when you're thinking about what teams need at the top, these are the things that you think about. So, all right. Beyond Jalen, started giving thoughts already on the Cavaliers' third overall draft pick, Evan Mobley. There are a lot of people that want to make comparisons to him as far as, like a Chris Bosh and whatnot. I don't really care to make comparisons because, in too many cases, you're either comparing guys unfairly or comparing guys extremely inaccurately, and it creates, in my mind, unnecessary expectation. Obviously, fans are going to have that anyway, but I don't care to add to that, to pile on to that. But for me, Evan's an extremely highly versatile offensive player. Somebody who can face up, plays back to the basket. Didn't have the shooting splits that you would want or you would hope for of a guy that you were labeling as a franchise changer. But he's got the touch and the finesse to go along with the athleticism and the skill that you can really build on. I think he's got excellent hands, runs the floor, very well. Can be very quick off the floor. Obviously, a great lob target. Capable of being a grab and go big and go get end to end. I think between his footwork and his counters, shot fakes, all these things that he can do in and around the paint are things that will allow him to score not just near the rim, but beyond that. And he's been working on his his 3-point game for a long time. So I think over time, I don't expect him to be somebody that's going to be reliably knocking down threes all the time. But I figure give it a couple years, and you'll see that part of his game start to mature. Right now, I think he can be more of a guy that you can, hit in some short roll situations, dunker spot situations, and then obviously use him as vertical spacer in the pick and roll. I've always felt like he's got pretty good feel as a passer. And then when you talk about what he does defensively, he's obviously an excellent shot blocker, great timing on and contests, and having a 7'4" wingspan is always going to be extremely helpful. So for me, the Cavaliers are still a team that is looking to build its way back, but adding an Evan Mobley to the situation is certainly not a bad thing. And so good on them for being able to get a guy who I think definitely will be a franchise changer in Evan Mobley. All right, Toronto, 4th overall. Scotty Barnes. I know a lot of phones are going off in the background. I apologize for that. We need to. All right. In any event, Scotty Barnes going 4th overall. That surprised. It seemed to surprise a lot of people. Upset some people who felt like, we should have gotten this player or that player. And it's like, look, first of all, being a guy who was scouted in Florida, I've watched Scotty since he was probably 8th, 9th grade. So I've watched him for a long time. First of all, you're getting a quality person. And I get that I'm saying that, with some bias and whatnot, but, I feel like I can say that. I've been around enough folks who've had, different levels of relationship with him, and nobody I've ever talked to has ever had a bad thing to say about him. And anytime I've ever, been around him or watched him, he's never really been the type of guy that really seems like, A, he could be uncoachable, because he certainly is very coachable, or B, doesn't really get down on himself and is a guy who can, move on to the next play and just give you everything he's got. I know saying this to start it off is not helpful, but to me, Scotty is an ultimate glue guy. And I'm thinking, and I know you're thinking, okay, well, look, we drafted this guy 4th overall. We need a lot more than that. But hear me out. Obviously, the shot isn't where you'd want it to be. But there's not much else on the basketball floor that Scotty Barnes can't do. Now, he's going to have to, continue to get better on the ball in terms of decision making, and I think sometimes his passing can be, a little overblown in terms of just how great he is. Sometimes there's some decision making issues, but he is an excellent passer. I think some people, like I say, will put it on some sort of high stratosphere. I mean, he can still make mistakes with the basketball, but in terms of what he can do as a passer, in terms of what he can do. Look, and not even just passing. There's something to be said for guys who can just smartly move the ball, not take shots that they shouldn't. And Scotty, for the most part, again, I know the shot's not there, but he's not putting up bad shots. And he's also not afraid to shoot. So you like that because, number one, you don't want a guy who's hesitant, right? Because there's going to be plenty of situations where passing up a shot is just as bad as taking a bad one, forcing a shot. Scotty's somewhere right in the middle. And I think that's a good place to start for a guy, especially when they're needing to get better in terms of shooting. I don't mind that because, to me, he's eventually going to figure out somewhere on the floor where he can reliably feel comfortable shooting threes, and he'll have to continue to get better. But being able to get the ball into the paint, find guys, score at the rim. He's got a floater that he tends to go to a little bit too much, but that he's comfortable with and that he can make. And then on top of that, he's good on the boards. So if he puts up a shot and misses, he's going to look to crash the glass. He's not just going to put his head down and run back. But at the end of the day, Scotty Barnes is somebody that's going to want to get into the paint. That's how he's pretty much always been. From the time I started watching him, as a 9th grader all the way until now, that's who he's been. He's been a guy that gets into the paint, uses his athleticism and length, and the handle that he's had to be able to get into the paint and score. I think overall, though, a lot of the people that were complaining about, why are we taking this guy 4th overall? Don't get caught up in the shot. I see a lot of people doing that with like Draymond, and I see a lot of people doing that with Ben, and there's just always guys. Look, bottom line is this. He's not a guy that's not going to want to take a shot. If he's got it, and you coach him to take it, he'll take it. So this isn't going to be a situation where it's like, well, I refuse to shoot. I'm not going to do it. So, again, I think you're starting from a good place with him. So there's that. That's why I'm not particularly worried about will he, won't he shoot. What I'm more focused on is, how quickly can he get better at it, over the next 2 to 3 years. And that's really how you have to look at prospects. You can't put them in a vacuum and say, hey, look, like, we need you to be good by game one. It's like it doesn't work that way. And you can't look at all the guys behind guys and say, well, we could have had him. Different playing style, different coach. You never know what guys would look like in those systems. So you can't just go off of that. Scotty nor none of these guys are perfect prospects. They've all got something that needs to get better. There's a lot of one to two skill guys, NBA skill, 1 to 2 things that they do at an NBA level in this draft. 1 to 2 things. There's a lot. In other words, there's a lot of role players in this draft. There's a lot of, there's a lot of guys in this draft that can only truthfully play one side of the floor reliably. So, I think Scotty is somebody who can eventually get better in terms of shooting, but he'll still be able to get into the paint and create. Still be able to get to the paint and score, get him out in transition, find ways to be able to, get him involved. But he'll be a guy that he can be a good connector type player. He's not going to be your point guard. He's not going to be a guy that, is going to constantly have the ball in his hands. But he also doesn't necessarily have to be. I think if you can just get him going downhill and allow him to make decisions and learn and grow from those decisions, because obviously a lot of them are going to be, decisions where the game's a little too quick for him at times, just like it is going to be for a lot of rookies. The game has to slow down. For some guys, it slows down quicker than others. It's just that's how the game works. And so have patience with him. I think in the end, it pays off well. Does he turn out to be a Hall of Famer? Does he turn out to be this guy or that guy? Or look, that's the wrong way to look at it and approach it, and that's the wrong way to approach it for all of these guys, all of them. Because if we're being honest, if the thing that you're expecting guys being picked in the top 5 to be, all-stars or Hall of Famers, you're going to be let down a lot. And that's nothing against guys who've been drafted that high. Again, it's a hell of an accomplishment to be drafted in the top 5 of any draft, regardless of what your opinion is on the draft, weak draft, strong draft, legendary draft, whatever. It's an accomplishment. So, I have reasonably high hopes for Scotty. Reasonably high. Do I expect him to be, some sort of offensive juggernaut? No. Do I expect him to make a ton of mistakes on the offensive end as he goes along and learns to, handle at the NBA level, make decisions at the NBA level, score at the NBA level? Yes, absolutely. Do I think he's going to be some sort of lockdown versatile defender? Probably not. Most guys are not. Most guys aren't. But can you be a good team defender? Can you be a guy who can not only guard your position but switch and when the time is right, make a play, whether that's jumping the passing lanes, whether that's walling up and creating a charge, or getting a block, or hell, just making all the right rotations. Maybe you're in a situation where you're having to guard 2 guys. Your responsibility is 2 different guys on 2 different parts of the floor. How well do you read and recognize and get to the right guy and guard? Defense is not the highlight level blocks and all the stuff that people want to talk about. That's not defense. Defense is making right rotations, being smart, reading the floor, keeping your head on a swivel. All of these, communicating. I'll say it again. Communicating, which sadly, even guys at the NBA level sometimes don't always do. It's a lot of things. It's not something that can just be easily quantified. It's tough, and you're guarding the best of the best in your industry. So, again, here's how I look at it. I think Scotty's gonna be a good player. Maybe you're a Toronto Raptors fan, and that doesn't help you, make you feel better. This isn't really about making you feel better. You need to feel better about it. Take a chill pill. It's not that deep. There's drafts every year. It's just what you hope for every year is you get guys who fit into your system, guys who are coachable, guys who will learn to play the style of basketball that the coaches that you want to play, and that they'll be reasonably the type of player that they drafted him to be. They didn't draft Scottie to be 20, 25 points a game. You know, there's different elements to his game that do work at the NBA level, and you hope that those elements can be elevated as he gets NBA coaching and development. So if that happens and he turns out to be, you know, a good player, ends up being, you know, a good young defender, a guy who can even pass the ball, you know, move the ball around and whatnot, I say that's not a bad lottery, a bad draft pick. That's my personal opinion. Now, if every guy in your opinion that gets drafted in the top 5, top 10 needs to be an all-star, you're going to be disappointed more often than not. So, I'm saying all that not as someone who's trying to defend Scottie Barnes, but I'm the people who wanted to act like, oh, well, we should have went for Jalen Suggs, or why didn't we get, you know, it's like, okay, bro, like, relax, you know. Let guys go where guys are going to go where they're going to go, and it is what it is. You want guys just to get better. Scottie is a guy I think will be coachable and get better. So rest assured, you got a player that I think will be good for you. All right, Orlando Magic at 5, Jalen Suggs. Before doing this pod today, I went back and watched quite a bit of Jalen Suggs film. I shouldn't say quite a bit, but I went back and watched, you know, enough to really give me some additional notes before talking about him. Look, I like the pick for the Magic at 5 of Jalen. Obviously, they probably weren't expecting Jalen to be there, but this is a team that is needed. You know, unfortunately, they've needed a point guard. Markelle Fultz, obviously been. And I really shouldn't call Jalen a point guard. Obviously, he's more of a combo guard, and a lead guard, however you want to term it yourself, in current day terminology, is more of a combo guard. But this is a team that is needed guys that they can be cornerstones on the perimeter. That's where the NBA game today is being played. Who's your cornerstone perimeter player or players? The Magic right now. Think what you want about Cole Anthony. I'm happy for him that he's played at the level he's played at. Jalen Suggs, I think, can be a different level of athlete, can be a different level of scorer and creator that I think can not only be a benefit to the Magic, but also can have some compliments to Cole Anthony at times, because I don't think Cole necessarily always has to play on the ball. Again, we talked about, a minute ago, having multiple guys on the floor that can create and score. And Jalen, I don't necessarily seeing as being a primary. I think he's always going to be a guy that can be paired with a guy who can score and create. And so having Cole Anthony next to him, I think, can be helpful. But looking at Jalen Suggs, the shot form looks good. There's some issues here and there. You'll see a little bit of a thumb flick and things of that nature at the top of the key. When he's going to take jump shots, and it shouldn't say at the top of the key as if that's the only place it takes place. But going back and looking at some of those shots, it's where I kind of noticed it from. Can tend to jump forward a little bit instead of being a little up and down. But these are things that, for him and for a lot of players, not only can be coached out of, but are, they can be on this possession, the thumb flick happened. On this possession, the jumping forward a little bit happened. But it may not be every shot. So there's some mechanical things with his shot that can be worked out over time. But I think overall where his shot is of right now, it's a good place to start, and I think he's pretty comfortable being able to not only create his own shot but shoot off the catch. To me, let me look on Instat here and see if they'll give me the exact catch and shoot numbers on him. Some of you are saying, well, why didn't you look this up prior to? Well, I did, but I don't memorize it. All right, hold on. Jalen Suggs. Okay. This segment is brought to you by Instats. Catch and shoot. Percentage made. Okay, according to Instat, now it might be different on percentage. I don't know. I mean, because you got to keep in mind with these video services, there's actual people inputting this stuff in. So sometimes wrong clips go in, things aren't accounted for, and it can impact the actual numbers that you're seeing. Always keep that in mind. But in terms of what Instat is showing, catch and shoot percentage made 25.7%. That seems low to me, because he seems, to me, watching the film, he seems pretty good with being able to shoot off the catch. Very, pretty comfortable shooting off the catch. But in any case, I think where his shot's starting is a good place to start. Now, Jalen Suggs, as a scorer, as a player, prefers to get downhill. He has a floater he loves to get to as he gets closer into the lane, loves to get out in transition. He loves to hit a head pass, finding guys in transition who are filling the lanes. Jalen, I've been watching him probably since he was in 9th grade too. 9th or 10th grade? Probably 9th grade. But in any event, I mean, he's always been a sight to see in transition. That should be no surprise to anybody. Especially when you give him time and space to really load up. That's where you'll see some of his athleticism that people love to look when they're looking at highlights, not film, highlights. So, the other parts of him as a driver that I like, he's got the body control, he accepts contact. It's that football background. One of the things that I do like about football players that eventually become basketball players, they don't take 2 feet out of the lane and try to take odd angles to try to get to the rim and score. They just say, hit me. Go ahead. That doesn't mean that, Jalen won't find 1 foot out of the paint when he's trying to score at the rim. But a lot of times, when a player like that is doing it, it's not to shy away from contact. It's more so they've put a shot idea in their head to try to score around a particular player. And so 1 foot is in the paint, 1 foot ends up out of the paint, and they're trying to put a little more finesse and nuance onto the shot that they try to create. But for the most part, he's going to be a guy that's going to take the contact and try to hang and finish. A good finisher. At the rim, 1 to 2 dribbles. He can get up in the mid-range pull-up areas. Again, as his shot continues to mature and progress, you'll be able to see him make those mid-range pull-ups. I really think with him playing with the Magic, he should really be able to help their pace and transition game quite a bit, because he's a guy that, like I mentioned a second ago, loves to get out in transition, but he loves to hit ahead passes and loves getting guys who are out in transition. If you go back and look at a lot of Gonzaga film, that team certainly played with some good pace, and I think he'll help the Magic quite a bit. Reading the floor as an attacker was something, looking at film today, picking the right time, when to drive, and which driving lane will be important for him as he continues to mature, because there's plenty of times where, he'll try to force his way into the lane, and then he's got not only 6 eyes on him, but he's got 2 hands, contesting him at the rim. And he's a good athlete, but he's not going to be a guy that's just going to absolutely flush it over people in traffic. Like, he gets deep in the weeds. You're just not going to. That's where to me the Derrick Rose comps are way off. I hate to say it, but we're 10 years removed from 2011 Derrick Rose, and I think people are, if they're being honest, have really forgotten just how explosive and just how athletic Derrick Rose was. So I don't think those comps in terms of his athleticism are just, and that's not a knock on Jalen. Again, I'm against comparison, because a lot of times it's not accurate. And comparing his athleticism to Derrick Rose, no offense to Jalen Suggs, and I think he probably would agree, because I just would imagine he's probably a guy that he's probably looked up to over the time that he's played basketball. And I even think he would tell you, it's like Derrick Rose in the stratosphere by himself. So, picking the right driving lanes and when to drive is going to be, it's like a running back. A lot of you I'm sure watch football. If you pick the wrong hole to try to go down, you're going to get tackled. You pick the right hole, you can break it wide open for a 60-yard run. And I don't care how athletic or how strong or how good of a finish you are at the rim. When you get around NBA length and athleticism, you need to pick the right lanes and get there as quickly as you can to take advantage of your advantage. Because that stuff will close quick. Everybody, is capable of pinning your shit to the backboard. And you need to be quick and decisive, because those driving lanes will shrink fast. So I think for him, especially because he is so much of a slasher and his game is predicated with him getting both feet into the paint, reading the floor in that way is going to be super helpful as he learns to do that more and better as his game goes on. Trying to think of what else I wanted to speak on about him in terms on the offensive end. One of the things that I liked in the film I was watching today is that he tends to use screens well to create shots. Just generally speaking, he tends to let the defense react. He'll hold them pretty well, and then he makes the decision. Or, if he feels like his big hasn't quite been able to set the screen that he would like in order to create the space he wants, he'll kind of go back or angle himself to allow the screen to really set, and then he'll go on about what he wants to do. And I like that, especially out of a young guard, being able to realize, because you'll see a lot of veteran guards in the NBA that really understand how to use screens, and they don't always have to be the fastest guys. They just know how to effectively approach angles, approach screens, come off of those screens, and create space for themselves. And I just think it's extremely important that, if you can learn how to use screens and have that set in you early on, it only helps you going forward. I mentioned the passing a minute ago. One of the other things in terms of passing, I mentioned a lot of him getting downhill, where I saw some things that I liked on the interior, as an interior passer. Being able to get into the lane and find guys on the interior was one of the areas I thought as a passer he looked pretty good. Now on defense, one of the things that I took a great deal of notice on was being in position. Really reading the floor, making sure to make the right tags when needed, making sure provide the right help when needed. Closeouts tended to be an issue. Taking some bad angles, being off balance. And these are some common things for young players in general. But it's the reason I bring it up is these are things that as you go along, it's already tough to guard anybody at the NBA level. But when you have things like that are, reading the floor IQ situations, you don't want to catch yourself out of position, because at the NBA level, they will absolutely make you pay for it. And they will force you to make decisions. So if you are someone who is, guarding two guys on a split, you're really needing to make the right decision. Which guy do I need to get out to? And, do you have, the quickness to get over in case that guy catches and swings to the next guy? But again, it's not just the quickness and the athleticism and being able to turn the hips. A lot of it's reading and reacting correctly and reading, seeing the floor. And there was some of that for me didn't quite sit well with Jalen, but certainly things that can be improved upon as he goes along. But overall, I like the pick for the Magic. I mean, that's a team that's needed, a cornerstone type player that is capable of leading them on the perimeter from the guard position. And again, I don't necessarily see him as a guy that has to be, your primary. I think, you compare him with other guys who can be, creators, and he can pair with them just fine. All right, so from Jalen, let's go to Josh Giddey to the Thunder at 6. This was Josh Giddey is I think it's probably an understatement, but Josh Giddey is a NBA draft Twitter darling. There's always these handful of guys every year that they gush over, and Josh Giddey certainly seems to be one of those guys. Obviously, the age, being 18 years old, the passing skill that he has at 6'9", people ooh and ah over it. I watched a lot of NBL. It's one of those things where when you're up at 5 a.m., you don't really have anything else to do. You'll flip on some NBL games and watching the Adelaide 36ers. They had a bit of a rough season, but when Josh was playing, it was certainly worth the watch. In terms of the things I've noticed about him or took note of watching him, obviously the shooting is something that people start off with, and I'm no different here. I think the biggest thing for me is some of the balance issues, kind of his push shot style almost. Sometimes tends to have a slow release, other times not so much. So his timing on his release can kind of be touch and go. The handle's all right for his size, but he doesn't create a lot of space. Doesn't have a lot of wiggle in his game. He's not completely void of it, but it kind of comes in flashes. But he's more of a simplified, straight lines majority of the guy kind of handle. And a lot of it really, in terms of his handle, can be a bit predictable. I think for him, learning which dribbles to use, getting comfortable using, those different dribbles, whether it's hesitations, speed dribbles, whatever, having a clear understanding and a clear being able to use different dribbles as he's coming out of different actions, or if he's caught in different scenarios, is going to be helpful to him, because the handle is where he tended to be either a little too predictable or get himself into some unnecessary trouble. Obviously, as I mentioned before, the passing is the thing that everybody oohs and ahs over. I think that's certainly well worth noting. Being able to see the floor, obviously it helps being 6'9", but the touch that he has and where he can it's not always just reading the floor, it's just knowing that, hey, I can make this pass. And I think that has its value, because as he learns to read the floor, as the game does slow down for him, as he does improve his handle, that passing will only elevate for him. When you look at Josh Giddey, he's not going to be your lead guard, in Oklahoma City. So I don't think it's necessary that, you would expect, there to be a need for him to make a lot of the reads and the ball handling decisions that he's had to make while he was in the NBL. With Oklahoma City now having Kemba, having Shai Gilgeous, even Poku being able to, handle it. There's going to be plenty of guys on the floor that are going to be making decisions before him, whenever he's able to kind of move into that role where he's, getting more minutes and whatnot. It'll really just depend on who he's on the floor with. But there's plenty of guys on that team that are going to be taking shots and making decisions. So I think for him, it's more of the importance just to get down the fundamentals so that the thing that you're elite at or can be elite at gets accentuated to its highest level. So, the offensive part of it, there's quite a bit to still work on. I mean, he's comfortable in mid-range pull-ups, short turnarounds, baseline type jumpers. He's also a pretty good cutter. And he can be pretty good around the rim. I wouldn't necessarily call him a great finisher or anything of that nature. It's one of those situations where also, too, he's got to put on some size to be able to really play through contact at this level. But good positional rebounder, crashes the offensive glass for putbacks and things of that nature. Pretty solid athlete with some pop, but he's more of a 2-foot jumper on dunks. Not a lot of bounce off the floor. In terms of defense for me, he's got more of the playmaker in him, where he can jump passing lanes and get a steal for you. Might be able to get a block if he's in the right position. Those sort of things, more of the performative type things. But in terms of what you'd want as a guy who's getting down in the stance and being able to contain, doesn't have great lateral quickness or is not a quick twitch athlete. Again, he can provide some help if he's already in position to maybe make a steal or a block here and there, but it's more of him already kind of being in the right position. For the most part, he can be out of position quite a bit. He can be locked in on his guy more than he is engaged in the entirety of the picture, so he's more focused on the detail than the whole picture. I think he needs to definitely be more dialed in on defense. There's just a lot of film where he's just blatantly not aware of what's going on around him. So it's just one of these deals where not only does he have to be more aware and more engaged, but he really just needs to learn that side of the ball from a nuance standpoint, not from just, well, I can block a shot here, I can jump, I can read a passing lane and get a steal here. Like, yeah, that's stuff that'll show up in a highlight package, or it might show up, on the stat, the box score. But in terms of NBA defense or just basketball defense in general, there's still a lot to be worked on for him. In terms of getting skinny on screens, fighting hard over them, some of these things where it requires him to be a little more physical on defense doesn't really show up a lot on film. But again, quick active hands, can be pretty good as reactionary defender. Again, more of a performative type, but I wasn't as high as everybody else on Josh. Doesn't mean I don't think he's a skilled player. I do. And the NBL offers good competition. I really enjoy watching that league. I really do. And so I'm excited for his development, but it's definitely going to be that development before you really get some of the things that I'm sure fans are hoping to see out of him. All right, so moving on from Josh at 6, we go to Jonathan Kuminga to the Warriors. At 7, Jonathan's an interesting case for me as I was going back and watching some of his film, trying to figure out really kind of how to use him. He's a guy that really likes to be able to get downhill and get to the rim. The shooting from 3 isn't there. It doesn't have a bad looking shot at all. Obviously there's always going to be things you can tinker with and get better with on his shot or anybody's shot, or I shouldn't say anybody's, but a lot of young guys' shots. There's always something that can be improved upon. For me, he's a little bit of a tweener. He looks like a modern 4, but he doesn't necessarily have the jump shot that a lot of modern 4s have. But then there's times where I think, well, maybe he's offensively could be more, be more beneficial to be used kind of like a 5 would be used. Short roll situations, dunker spot situations, even though in terms of being in traffic, Jonathan doesn't necessarily have a ton of pop coming off the floor. Now, give him time and space, it looks effortless when he's coming off the floor. But in terms of being in traffic, there's not a ton of pop there. So dunker spot may not always be advantageous, although if there's time and space, certainly think it's helpful. Getting him out in transition, certainly as a trailer, would be helpful. But I definitely think there's some opportunity using him more as a big around the rim, short rolls, anything going towards the rim, cuts. Not necessarily part of a big package, but even just using him on cuts and things of that nature. Anything getting him going towards the rim, being able to use his size and some of the skill shots that he does have. He can play back to the basket. Now I'm going to say something, and I want you to listen, because I don't want anybody hearing this and thinking I said something else. The ways in which he likes to score, I will emphasize this again, the ways in which he likes to typically score kind of reminds me of Carmelo. I'm not saying he's the scorer that Carmelo is. I'm not saying anything of that match. So if any of you, if I catch any of you coming at me with tweets talking about, well, he said he's like Carmelo. No, I'm saying the ways in which he likes to score. Facing up mid-range pull-ups, mid-post, some low-post, turnaround type shots at the elbow, even some of the ways in which he shoots, catch and shoot threes, just kind of reminds me of him that way. Do I think he's going to be that? No. But there's plenty of upside in how you can use him. And as his shot gets better, that's only going to make it that much better when you can consider that you can use him in some big type situations. You can use him as a modern four who can play mid post or play in between the three in the paint, and then be a guy who can stretch the floor, play pick and pop, play pick and short rolls. So I think there's definitely some versatility, but the key to really unlocking that, continuing to open up his handle a little bit more, getting him tighter on his handle, and then of course, improving that three ball. So I think that those will be some certain keys where you can unlock more of him, and you can certainly see more of his upside. But he excels getting to the as far as scoring around the rim. That size and that length that he has, that natural size that that natural pro body that he has combined with a 7-foot wingspan. You want him as close to the rim as you can get him in terms of what his skill set is right now. And then some of the self-creation stuff that he has. He'll take tough shots. You're gonna have to learn. You're gonna have to deal with him taking some tough shots at times, and then shots that he should make. Maybe not falling. I mean, there's gonna be plenty of that. But even being able to cut off ball and things of that nature, and find some favorable matches where he can get guys in the deep post or on the low post and score. I think there's some of that there as well. So there's definitely some versatility, but it's going to take some time to unlock the full picture. And so, yeah, I think I think that the pick with him going to the Warriors, I'm interested to see how they'll develop him and really unlock that side of the floor for him. So yeah, we'll see. All right, so let's move on to Magic again, going 8 with Franz Wagner. Franz is an interesting case for me. Another draft Twitter darling, if you will. Let me hold on one second. Okay. Look, there's not much denying how good a defender he was at Michigan. Like, technically sound, just smart, closes out, contests, step for step with a lot of guys. Really just a sound defender. Shot looks good, even though the numbers don't back it up. He's got a shot that's repeatable, which is great. He's got some touch on his shots, on some of the floaters that he can have. So there's a base there to start from offensively. The passing we'll talk about in a second. But for now, I just want to kind of focus on him as a scorer. doesn't have the frame to really play through contact, and really isn't a guy that accepts contact at this stage. Will tend to kind of shy away from it, which results in him taking shots that are going to be tougher in and around the rim, and are only going to get tougher as you're faced with better athleticism and more length. But it's one of these things for me. I think it's going to be really advantageous for him to really get his three ball going, and then as he continues to add some more nuance and handle better attacking, off closeouts, being able to, catch and attack with his floater, but also getting to a point where, stop and pop pull-up jumpers, something additional to unlock the necessary need for him to be an at-the-rim guy, because I don't really necessarily see him being that, decent enough athlete, but it's not going to be a guy that's just overly bouncy or just, flushing on guys. Certainly a little more finesse to his game than power and playing over the top of guys. But, being comfortable putting the ball on the floor as he is, making, some reads and playing even like in pick and roll, or just being able to find guys as he's on the move, I think will be helpful. I think a lot of it, though, is he's got to just get comfortable with the player that he is. He's not comfortable going left pretty much at all. He prefers to go right, and he basically has to go right. He goes left, and things really start to break down pretty quick. So I think for me, there's a lot of offensive limitations, which is why I think it's really going to be important for him to be able to improve his three ball. Again, the shot's there. The numbers won't say it, but the shot's there. And I just think he needs to get better, going not only just to his left, but just being comfortable with the sort of shots he wants to take. I'm always a big believer in knowing where your spots are on the floor and knowing how to get there as efficiently as you can. And he's just not there yet for me. Again, defensively very sound. I don't think he'll have a hard time being a good team defender and a guy who can certainly make some performative plays, steals in the passing lane and, a block here and there. But NBA athleticism and speed is completely different. So being able to, he's not a quick twitch athlete. He's not, an overly athletic guy. So containing and being able to really be sound against NBA guys is going to look a lot different. Like when you think about guys like a Keon Johnson, for example, he's not as fundamentally sound defensively as Franz is, but if he needs to adjust, his athleticism allows him to do that. Franz doesn't have a ton of that. So, there's going to be situations where, technique be damned, and you need to be able to figure out a way to make up this space and reattach. And if you can't, there's going to be times where he's going to get beat. And look, this isn't a pick on him. Every young guy is going to get beat. Every young guy has their time frame from when the game at the NBA level slows down. But it's certainly more helpful when you have the athleticism that matches what you're going to face. And Franz, for me, just isn't quite there. So, having said that, now the passing. For me, it goes back to really just being comfortable with who he is. Because when you talk about guys who can play make, when you're comfortable knowing what you can do and when you can do it and what plays to make, it's easier to kind of freestyle a little bit. And when you're being more structured and being a part of a play and a play breaks down, you can make certain plays because you trust your handle and your playmaking ability. I don't think that's there for Franz yet, and he'll tend to second-guess himself quite a bit. So I think he really, just my biggest thing with him is getting comfortable with who he is, and then continuing to work on the skill part of the game in terms of handle. Because I think the shot will be there, the passing is there. For me, it's just being comfortable with who he is, being able to handle, and then putting it all together. And I think once he does, you'll unlock something. That'll be a pretty solid role player in the NBA. And so I'm excited to kind of see how he progresses. And again, we're talking about a guy who defensively was very good at Michigan. High block and steal rate, used his length well, had pretty good lateral quickness, at times. He's aggressive defensively in terms of like applying the right pressure, but I don't necessarily see him being aggressive in terms of like physical aggression. Like there's guys who can just be physically imposing or aggressive that Franz doesn't quite have, at least from me. Again, that's being nitpicky. Overall, he's a solid prospect. And, again, I'm not as high as, the consensus draft Twitter, but I certainly understand why he is a player that they've enjoyed watching. So, from that standpoint, overall, I think the Magic drafting at 5 and 8 certainly got, some guys that will certainly be able to help them moving forward, and hopefully keep them, as close to the playoff picture as they can possibly be. So, let's move on from the Magic. Davion Mitchell at 9 to the Kings. Let me hold on a second. Let me pull up the hold on. Let me just pull up the Kings here for a second. Okay. All right. So theoretically, we've got De'Aaron Fox and Halliburton kind of as your backcourt. Buddy Hield, who's to know what if he's in the picture and whatnot. And then they've got Terrence Davis. Like, I don't know why Davion Mitchell was the need for them here. First of all, let's just clear this out. Again, and I like Davion Mitchell. I've been watching him since he was playing 16U for the Georgia Stars. I've liked him for a long time. But he doesn't fit for me in Sacramento. He fits in the NBA. Very good defender. Physical, sound, athletic, moves his feet. Good defender. The shot's coming. He's a good attacker at the rim, and he's always been. I think his offense, the way people are talking about his offense, I think it's being well undersold. That he's just not going to be able to score. I get that he's not your ideal 6'5" or 6'4", doesn't have some crazy length. But I think he'll figure it out offensively. Do I think he's going to be, a go-to guy? And that's where the Donovan Mitchell comparisons fall short for me, because Donovan's not the defender that I think Davion will be. But Davion's not the offensive player that Donovan is. And there's just way too many of these lazy comparisons. Oh, look, they both wear 45. Stop. It's okay to not have a comparison for a guy. It's okay. It's all right. Everybody. Who would you compare him to? I'd compare him to Davion Mitchell. How about that? Well, that's not fun. I want to know who he's going to be. Wrong. You want to know who he's going to be? Watch the damn games. Okay. That takes care of that. So, I just don't understand the need for Davion Mitchell here for the Kings. I think, if you wanted a guy who was going to play on the perimeter, you could have went, the Moutier route. You could have went the Moutier. I think Moody probably would have been. I don't know why did I say Moutier? What the hell am I thinking of? I'm thinking of Emmanuel Moutier. Listen to me. Anyway, I'm not editing that out because I want you all to know that sometimes I can be an idiot. Yes, they should have went the Moses Moody route. God, what am I, Kendrick Perkins? What next? Am I going to be comparing Jonathan Kuminga to fucking Jordan Bell? Anyway, that's why I hate comparisons, by the way. So, moving on from that. I think that's probably would have been the pick for them. Or, frankly, they don't have a ready now. They don't have a lot of ready now shot making or shooters on this team, especially if Buddy Hield's not in the long term picture there. Like, there goes a good deal of your shooting, and I like Halliburton as a shooter, but beyond him, where the hell's their roster at again? So Fox isn't really a shooter like that. Halliburton, you got Harkless, but I just put it to you like this. I think you probably would have been best going Moody, but that's me. Listen, Davion Mitchell isn't a bad selection as a draft pick. It's just, number one, I don't necessarily think he needed to go that high, nor should he have gone that high. On the flip side of that, he also doesn't fit as well as other teams that probably could have used his defensive versatility, or I shouldn't necessarily say versatility, but his defensive stop making that he has. I just the fit here for me is not ideal, and I'm just not a huge fan, because now we're talking about you've got, if Buddy Hield stays in the fold, you've got Hield, Halliburton, Terrence Davis, Davion Mitchell. Even if he takes Terrence Davis's minutes, he's not taking minutes from Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton. And you've got Bagley and Holmes in your front court, so it's not like you can say, well, now, Barnes also may not be in the long-term picture there either. So the thought might be, okay, well, we eventually slide Davion next to De'Aaron. We have a good defensive backcourt, and then we slide Tyrese over to being more of a small forward, I guess. I just think Moses Moody would have been better. So, by the way, shout out to Montverde. For God's sake, they had 6. I don't know if you understand. They had 6 guys that at one point suited up for Montverde in this draft that were drafted. 6. Okay. I don't give a damn who you are. Your La Lumieres, all these national powers. 6 is impressive. By the way, there's a lot of Florida guys drafted in this shit too. A lot of guys who played high school basketball in Florida. I'm not just talking about Montverde. We don't necessarily count Montverde playing high school basketball in Florida because Montverde's its own planet. I'm talking about every other school. If you're a college coach and you're still not prioritizing Florida, I don't care I don't care if you're on the West Coast, I don't care if you're in the Midwest. If you're not prioritizing Florida, I have been beating this drum for 10 years, 11 years. If you're still not prioritizing Florida and you're a college coach, you're fucking up. Anyways, moving on. But yeah, I like Davion as a pick, as a prospect, I should say. I think his offense is being crushed. Some of it is for good reason, but crushing the dude and making it seem like, well, he's just not going to score. It's like, okay, all right, got it. So I guess just all the way up until now, he's just been 0 point a game type. He's just an offensive liability. No, he's best playing off the ball, catch and shoot threes, attack the rim when he can. More of a Luguentz Dort type player. Luguentz is, more explosive, a bigger, a little bit bigger, stronger frame. But I think there's a role similar to that he can fit in. Now, does that need to be a guy that you draft top 10? No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. And when you're a team that already has the guys that I mentioned, I don't necessarily know that it's going to be an advantageous pick for you. So I'll move on. Pelicans at 10, getting Zaire Williams. Then trading that pick to the Grizzlies. So essentially the Grizzlies are getting Zaire Williams at 10. I didn't see Zaire going this high. I love what he can do in terms of some of the shot creation. He didn't have the best shooting season for Stanford. But what I also liked about Stanford was it wasn't all on him. Like if you even look at a guy who had some similar stats, like a BJ Boston, right? And I'm not saying that they're similar in terms of prospect or whatever. I'm just saying in terms of just stats, overall physical profile. Both had similar stats, and the key difference there is that BJ is playing for a team in Kentucky that didn't have a true point guard. The team as a whole averaged 12 assists per game, and more often than not, they needed him to be the type of scorer that he just wasn't ready to be. Zaire, by contrast, or by comparison, I should say, is not what was put on a team that was better equipped for him just to be who he is. And so the shooting percentages didn't show it, but in terms of the way in which he can be a fluid shooting, the fluid shooting motion in which he plays with, the shot creation, I think he's a guy I mentioned earlier. The value in knowing your spots on the floor. I think he's cognizant of that to a degree. And he can score at all three levels. He's got good pop off the floor, and I think he can be an ideal wing scorer for them in their second unit. In their second unit, is known, at least by my eyes, and I watched a lot of Memphis last year. Their second unit comprised of like your DeAnthony Meltons, and now Eric Bledsoe's on that team. Even last year it was Grayson Allen in that role, but even Tyus Jones playing, in the DeAnthony Melton role, whichever iteration of the DeAnthony Melton, Tyus Jones, Eric Bledsoe, Zaire Williams, or I should say Grayson Allen that you're going to get in your secondary backcourt. Then you combine that with Desmond Bane, Xavier Tillman, former Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year at Michigan State. Brandon Clark, who was more lauded for his athleticism and some of the performative things he can do as a shot blocker at Gonzaga. It's one of these things where their second unit was more defensive minded, small ball style, especially when Tillman was playing the 5. Zaire can come in and at some point within that and add some shot creation that I don't necessarily think was there last year. Now Eric Bledsoe will bring more of a drive game and improved 3-point shooting that he's had in some spurts here and there. But I think overall his shot making can certainly be used off the bench for this team. So outside of that though, defensively, a lot of the things that I noticed with young guys, balance and footwork. Has too many times where he's off balance, before sliding, turning, containing, not strong enough in those areas. Help side blocks and some rim protection stuff because of his length and athleticism. That can be there. That's more of the performative side of things, But again, you look at the 6'10" length, that's certainly helpful. But I didn't really see anything on film defensively that really made me feel great. Now, again, the shot making is where it's at for him. He's smooth in that area. His handle can be a little stiff at times, getting in and out of his dribble, but for the most part, he's pretty solid in that area. Just shot making off the bench, I think will certainly be helpful. I didn't think that description of that type of player was necessarily meant that he should go top 10. I was thinking he was probably going to go late teens, early 20s. But, one thing I'll say is this. You look up and down this Memphis roster, it's all been achieved by the draft. So far be it for me to sit here and shit on anything that Memphis has done. They, for me, have become what people assume the Spurs have been the last few years and haven't really quite been. Memphis has been that. They've been quietly hitting home runs. And if you haven't been paying attention, I'm not talking about, Ja. Look at the rest of that roster. That's not a roster full of free agents or trades. That's a roster full of draft picks. Doesn't mean there's not, a guy here and there that wasn't. I get it. Don't what about this? Don't do that. It's mostly a roster of draft picks, and they were in the playoffs. Okay, so far be it for me to sit here and shit on anything that they do. They've earned that, at least for now, from me. So I'll just say this. If the idea was to add more shot making in their second unit in hopes that he will be able to elevate that to a higher degree and eventually become a starter, okay. I'll go along with it for now, and we'll keep an eye on it. And that's really where I'll kind of leave it because, I don't have a crystal ball, and I can't tell you exactly how it's going to play out for him. I know what he can do, but knowing what somebody can do and seeing him work day in and day out to where he is improving and then eventually seeing that translate to the floor are two different things. I'm not privy to that. All I get to do is turn on League Pass and watch the games and figure it out as we go along. So, having said that, did not think he was going to go that high, but so be it. Hornets with James Bouknight at 10. Okay, so I'm gonna get the part of this that is never really fun for me. For me, first of all, I enjoy James Bouknight. I could turn on any film and watch him play basketball. I enjoy him. Aesthetically, I enjoy it. So, that aside, I'm gonna eat my vegetables and then go to the meat. The vegetables of it is the thing you don't want to talk about. So, that part of it for me was more of the shot creation for others and the defense. The defense, there's just a lot of mistakes just in terms of all the little things. Not staying in a stance, easily going for shot fakes and being thrown off with a shot fake. Too many unnecessary fouls, But he can, also be off balance. The athleticism is there. There's definitely times where he'll get down in the stance, slide his feet well, and contain, and look like a pretty decent defender. I think he can be turned into that a little bit. So I still have some hopes there. But for me, cleaning up a lot of that and really just being locked in on that side, because let's be honest about it. If it's going to be him and LaMelo in the backcourt in Charlotte for years to come, obviously Terry Rozier is still there, but for years to come, if it's going to be some iteration of, and then of course you got Devontae Graham. So, if it's going to be some iteration at some point down the road of James Bouknight and LaMelo Ball, like that's the potential backcourt of the future for Charlotte, 2 years, 3 years from now, whatever it is. My hope is in that time he gets better at being comfortable creating for others, driving kicks, just interior passing, as well as just being locked in on defense, because LaMelo is definitely more of the performative side of things in terms of he can create steals, get in passing lanes, but I think between one of them they need to be a guy you can rely on defensively to some level. Not saying either one of them has to be all defense or anything crazy, but there needs to be some reliability on what they can achieve as a defensive backcourt in time. Not today, not game one, just eventually. But in terms of what Bouknight can do as a shot creator, I'll just say to open that shot selection aside, he's going to take some tough shots. He's going to make some tough shots. But he's got about as ready of a shot-making bag as any scoring guard in this draft. I mean, he can put it together. He finishes well at the rim. He's got the pull-up stuff in the mid-range. He's got the three ball. He creates all of his own shots for the most part. He's got some of the catch and shoot stuff, but I mean he's got the the wiggle and the handle to back it up too. So, for me, him being able to find ways to score is kind of a given, and obviously he is shot up the mock drafts, and some people are opposed to that and say, well, look at his defense, look what he doesn't do as a creator for others, and look at some of the tough shots he takes, and they're quick to cool off on him. I understand that part of it. Where I come from is more of the I understand that side of it, but I'm also looking at the fact that when you're talking about guys who are ready to come in and score at the NBA level, you can talk about other guys in the drafts if you'd like. You can have your preferences, whoever it may be, and we'll talk about some of those guys as we go along. But James Bouknight is at the top or very close to when it comes to shot creation in this draft, in my opinion, especially among the first-round guys, which, if we're being honest, 5 years from now, those are going to be the majority of the guys you're talking about anyways. There's going to be a smattering of some second-round guys, maybe an undrafted free agent here or there that you might be talking. But for the most part, 5 years from now, the guys you're going to be talking about in any draft probably going to be emanating out of the first round. So, that being said, that's where I'm at with Bouknight. Again, I enjoy watching him on the offensive end. I'm always curious to see what shot he's going to come up with. Some shots I love, some shots I'm in awe of, and some shots I'm just like, okay, that was unnecessary. And there's going to be that. It is what it is. All right, let's move on to maybe one of the more polarizing picks certainly in the lottery, but in the draft in its entirety, and that's Josh Primo going to the San Antonio Spurs at 12. Look, I like Josh. Am I super high on him? not necessarily, because I saw him at Alabama more as a catch and shoot guy. Now, there are those saying that, in individual workouts and different things that they saw that made them feel that there was a lot more there. I think certainly there's more on the offensive side. I think he can be a better finisher than he showed at Alabama. I think he can be a little bit better creator than he was at Alabama. So there are things that I've seen on film that I've been intrigued by. I do like him as a catch-and-shoot three-point shooter, but, 38%, while it's nothing to scoff at, isn't, any kind of knockdown numbers or anything like that. But he's certainly intriguing and fun to watch for me not just because of like the age, but sometimes when you watch guys, and this can go for a number of guys in any draft, but sometimes when you watch guys, there's just a small factor of like, okay, there's something here. There's enough here where you can parse things together and you're like, okay. And this, I'm not just talking about like as upside. It's like you might have a certain level more of belief that that person's going to reach closer to their ceiling more so than their floor. And I think that played for the Spurs. I think not only did they see some things that they liked, but they saw some of what I'm describing to you as like, I don't want to call it an it factor because that's not a fair thing to say. It's just sometimes you watch guys and you're like, oh, okay, there's just something here, and I want to dig and unlock it. I can't always explain it. I really can't. It sounds very vague, and there's definitely nothing analytical about it. I get it. It's like there's different guys in every draft where that can be the case. So there had to have been something that justified, and I'm not justifying this pick. Again, I mentioned a second ago that Memphis has become what we thought have always thought the Spurs are, and there's still you can read people's reaction on Twitter as the Spurs are picking. Oh well, this guy must be saying be something we're not expecting. Okay, I think we can kind of get off that train a little bit. Doesn't mean they've lost their touch or they don't know what they're doing. I'm not saying that. I'm just simply saying we can put things in context a little bit. But I can also say that, like, if we look at, let me pull up the, I always like to pull up the roster and kind of toy around a little bit. Let's see. DeJounte, Devin Vassell, DeMar DeRozan's probably not there long term. You still got Derek White, Lonnie Walker, Patty Mills, and so, there's things here where it's like, okay, I'm not exactly sure what the Spurs necessarily were thinking with this pick, given all of the wings and the focus on shooting that they've tried to have. And then, of course, Keldon Johnson has merged quite well for them. So, I mean, I get it. I get it if you hate the pick. I also get it if you're somebody who's, like, really intrigued by him. And not because of where he was drafted, but just in general. I get both sides of it. I really do. I'm super curious now to see how he develops. I just think for me, given, again, if DeJounte's, in the fold there long term, Derek White, Lonnie Walker, Devin Vassell, again, I'm not including DeMar DeRozan in this because I don't think so, but Lonnie was making, 16th, something like that. 18th, 2018, 18th. So, between Derek White, Patty Mills, DeJounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, where, again, I don't gloss over the fact that this is probably more of a long-term play. It's not, just, well, he's going to be getting minutes day one. Like, obviously, he's going to see some G League time and so on and so forth. And I'm excited to see what he does down there in the G League. All I can say is I kind of get it, but I'm also, much like a lot of you, was very surprised by the pick. Definitely was okay with him being, late first and somebody saying, hey, let's take a young guy and try to develop him. And, we liked some of the things we saw shot-wise. We liked some of the flashes we saw maybe as a creator and just as a guy who can, do some other things. But it's hard to know without actually speaking to somebody and the people who essentially decide to make that decision. It's hard to know. So I'm extremely curious, like probably a number of you are, to see exactly what he turns into. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who can't wait to push the button of "I told you so," as far as that wasn't a worthy pick. So either somebody's gonna be eating humble pie in terms of the people who are willing to want to push that button to say "we told you so," that was a bad pick, or the people who are super intrigued and super high on him, who are ready to say no, we told you so. I'm not ready to call it a bad pick because I am one of the people who is very intrigued with Josh. Do I expect him to go 12? Do I think he should have went in the lottery? No and no. So before you think I'm one of these people, it's like, well, let me figure out a way to flip this into the Spurs just might be magical geniuses again. I'm not doing that. So in any event, those are my thoughts on that pick. Moving on to the Pacers at 13 with Chris Duarte. Chris being 24 years of age. I don't tend to be somebody who gets caught up in age. I think as I've watched the draft over the years and really tried to dive more into the NBA draft, it seems to me teams are more willing to draft and get guys who might be a little bit older, sure, but are ready to go. Because, let's say you're the Pacers. You're already a team that is probably going to make the playoffs. So what sense does it make to go drafting guys at this point that are upside plays? You're trying to make the roster better. And if you've got a lottery pick, would I have preferred Moody going to the Pacers? Yeah. But, I could have seen Moody going 7th. I could have seen Moody going 6th. I could have seen Moody going, 8th, 5th, So I'm in that camp of he could have went much higher. So anybody who goes in front of him, I might be able to put together a reasonable argument as to why you should have taken him. So in any event, I like Chris Duarte. I really do. An excellent rim finisher, can pull up in the mid-range, good catch and shoot. He's got some of the step backs, a timely cutter. He's engaged on both ends, which is what I like. Isn't some freak of nature athlete, only comes in with a +1 wingspan, but there's something about his pace in which he tries to score. Doesn't necessarily get sped up, has the footwork and the shot fakes for, to create his own shot attempts. Has some solid interior passing ability. An active and engaged team defender. Just a guy that I felt like as I was watching more film on him, that I just felt comfortable that the fact that this is a guy that can come in and find a way to contribute, and do it in a way that isn't requiring him to have the ball, isn't requiring somebody to run plays for him, isn't a high maintenance situation. It's just come in and hoop. And so, you know, in Indiana, you've got Malcolm Brogdon and Karis LeVert in that backcourt. McConnell, Sumner is made a nice, had some nice moments last season for them. Lamb's there. So, I mean, it's crowded for sure. But I think at some point, Duarte can kind of figure out a way to, depending upon who's on the roster, to slide in and make some minutes. And I think you're putting in a guy that is ready to go for the most part day one. So I thought it was a pretty solid pick. Was it the best pick they could have made? No, not by my estimation, but it's not a pick I am highly for or highly against. I'll put it that way. All right. So I've mentioned Moses Moody at 14. I've mentioned Moses quite a bit, so I think it's pretty clear how I feel about him as a prospect to a certain degree. But we'll go through the exercise anyway of discussing him. I think in terms of efficiency, I wasn't always a fan of all the shots he took, but this guy can make some shots. Like a tough shot maker. Puts the ball on the floor, good in catch and shoot. I liked the fact that, even if he took a shot you didn't like, as you watch more film on him, you thought, it might still go in. Whereas other guys, when they take tough shots, you're like, man, that's probably just a bad shot. And I'm sitting there like, okay, there's not a ton of wiggle. He's not going to just blow by guys. But he's a good athlete for the most part. I think one thing I do like when you talk about him offensively is he's comfortable scoring in different areas on the floor. Like, you're not going to put him in an area on the floor where he's just out of water. Again, you're going to have to be okay with him probably forcing some shots in there. But again, when you're a rookie and you're coming in and you're already playing with guys like Clay and Steph, the shot attempts, once you do work your way high enough up in the lineup, aren't going to be there in plentiful anyway. So I think his efficiency will show itself more in the NBA than maybe it did in times. If you just watched an average game of Arkansas. Now that's not to say he's not efficient, because he is, and I think that's the trick that the film can play on you, is that you're like, okay, I didn't like that shot, but then you see him make like 2 or 3 other shots, and then eventually you get towards the end of the game, you're like, all right, it wasn't a bad shooting game, and then you look at it as a whole, and it really wasn't that bad. You have to really consider it in terms of the types of shot he's taking, and not necessarily just look at it from a field goal, like 6 makes, 15 attempts, that type of thing. You really have to look at the individual shots with Moses and discern, well, shit, he hit that, and that was tough. Yeah, he missed that, and he was a little open. But you know what? He was guarded on that one. Maybe that shouldn't. So, there's some balance and nuance in there that you really, I think for me, that you really have to watch the film. But I think when you do, you get excited about the versatility in which he can have as a shot maker. That's definitely in his DNA. He's a very good positional rebounder. Doesn't shy away from contact. Absorbs the contact, pretty well. Timely cuts, draws contact, gets to the foul line a very good amount. Defensively, has a 7-foot wingspan. Lateral quickness isn't, the greatest thing you'll watch, but it's not bad. Has enough size and athleticism really to, contain and contest. He's definitely going to obviously encounter guys like a lot of these guys are going to encounter guys who are just, going to be better athletes and be able to, either get by them with, speed, handle, and just quickness. But I think overall, not a bad positional defender and an excellent shot maker. And, the term 3-and-D is overly used. It just is. At the same time, though, he is, if you're wanting to put a player into that mold, he fits about as well in that mold as just about anybody in this draft. So, there's definitely better scorers in this draft. There's better guys defensively in this draft. Like, you could say Keon Johnson, better defender, but he's not the better shot maker. You can go and look at maybe some better natural scorers, maybe like a Cam Thomas, and say, well, he's a better natural scorer. Well, yeah, he's kind of been that for a very long time. I don't necessarily know if I would do that with Josh Christopher, but, some people would to a degree. But, I think overall, if you're needing a guy who's truly going to fit that 3-and-D kind of mold, Moses is about as good as you're going to find in this draft. So, good on Golden State for doing the thing that I think a handful of teams are going to wish they had done when we get 2-3 years down the road. Maybe even a year down the road. Who knows? It just depends on the opportunity that is available to him. Assuming that team's fully healthy, there may not be a ton of opportunity, but there'll certainly be some. So, all right, Wizards. Going from one guy who I think is NBA ready for sure to another guy who I think is definitely NBA ready in Corey Kispert. I think the fair comparison that I've liked throughout this is kind of a Joe Harris type where, just a shot maker. A guy who's ready to be a shot maker at an NBA level. I think that's fair, and that's an easy thing. That's a comparison I don't mind, because number one, we're not comparing him to somebody he shouldn't be compared to, and it's a reasonable comparison compared to his ceiling and his floor. So I think when you're talking about Corey Kispert, certainly a knockdown shooter. He can attack his closeouts with a floater. He can get to the rim. See, to me, it's not always about how far away you can shoot the ball. When you're at the NBA level, you got to be able to get rid of it. And so to me, I always tell people, look, range is cool, but at the NBA level, a quick release is even cooler. If you got a quick, accurate release, every team needs you, wants you, you'll have a job for a long time. Corey Kispert has both. I don't care if he can shoot out to the logo. He can shoot a three behind that line, quickly, accurately. That's all I need. So, when you look at it from Washington's standpoint, you're picking 15 right outside the lottery, and you're able to get a guy who can come in and help you day one. So to me, there's no losing in that. That's being able to get a guy that can come in, help you day one, be a solid team defender, be a good shooter. Davis Bertans obviously had some injury situations. Kyle Kuzma comes in on a trade. Caldwell Pope, obviously. So, there's not going to be ready-made minutes for Kispert. But when he does get in, you know what his job and his role is. Simple as that. And look, I said it last year and I'll say it again. This team with Gafford, Hachimura, we'll see what it looks like with Kuzma being added into the fold. But Beal, now obviously this is a team that went from having a point a lead guard, we'll call it, point guard with, when it was John Wall, lead guard when it's with, you're talking about Russell Westbrook. Then they go from having those two to having Raul Neto and then having Aaron Holiday. I'm interested, honestly, to see what Aaron Holiday can do with some more minutes. I was really kind of disappointed in the fact that he didn't get a ton of minutes or enough minutes in Indiana. Now, again, I'm not privy to practice and a lot of the things that don't get shown. Obviously, the only things I'm seeing are the games. So, maybe there's a rhyme and a reason to it. But, I'm definitely interested to see what he might be able to do in Washington. But, as far as the draft pick of Kispert's concerned, I'm good with it. If Bertans is obviously not in the lineup, I'm looking at the rest of this lineup to really try to figure out where the consistent three-point shooting is going to come from, and there's not a lot here. I mean, Bradley Beal can do just about anything he wants. So I'm not. When I say that, I'm not thinking of him. I'm looking at the rest of the roster. So, you get an NBA-ready guy who can knock down shots. I really can't, frown on that decision by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm good with it. Some of these guys, as you know, I've talked about more in terms of fit, in terms of how I just discussed Kispert, and some of it I've talked about it in terms of things I've liked, didn't like, and as we're getting further into the podcast, I'm realizing, like I do quite a bit, I'm just getting long on a lot of this, so I'm trying to shorten it up with a lot of the, a lot of the strength and weakness talk. So, as we go along, I'll try to be as analytically sound as I can be for you, because obviously I have that, but I don't. In terms of time, I gotta keep in mind that I can listen to me talk all day, but you can't. So, beyond 15, we go to 16 with the Rockets. Was the Thunder, but they traded that pick to the Rockets, and they eventually get Alperen Sengun. I believe that's how you say it, or Sengun is pretty close to how you say it. So, in any event, I think, let me pull up some stuff here on him. So, as of the draft, he's now 19. Date of birth, July 25th, 2002. So he's 19 now. He's got a lot of things on the interior that you like. He's got some touch, got the footwork, got some patience, got some post counters. And he's on film. He was pretty confident. I mean, when you're getting a guy like 6'10", 6'11", who's playing center for you, who's taking step back corner threes, like, he's legitimately, there's a clip in his film. If you go on our YouTube and look at his film, if you watch it long enough, you'll eventually see a clip of him taking step back threes from the corner. You don't normally see that overseas with bigs. The athleticism's pretty good. Time and space, like a lot of these guys, if you can, load up and you can, there's some good athleticism on film with him. He's averaging essentially a double-double playing over in Turkey, and depending upon what you think of the skill level in that league this year, plenty of smart people I know will tell you that wasn't always very good. And there's different reasons for that. It's not just the league in general, but COVID was not kind to a lot of overseas teams, overseas leagues. So keep that in mind. But I thought he had pretty good hands, pretty soft touch. pretty good pop off the floor. Not, nothing great to write home about, but pretty good. Again, time and space makes a whole lot of difference for a lot of these guys. But I think I thought that there was some possibility for him in terms of pick and roll, some stuff around the rim. The 3-point shooting really isn't there in droves at all, and shoots it well from the free throw line, which anybody people try to tell you that's like the best indicator if a guy can from a shooting percentage standpoint, if a guy can actually shoot from the three and it at the next level. But I just thought that was just overstating a bunch of bullshit. There's some truth to it, but it's like, look, man, like the free throw line, you don't have somebody running at you trying to keep you from missing the damn thing. So I think there's tools here. A lot of it still needs to be put together, and how well it's going to look at the NBA level to me is still a wait and see. There's no questioning he's got talent. How well it all looks at the NBA on the NBA floor is what I'm going to be curious by. If you told me that he was going to be, a pretty good NBA center who could go in, get you some buckets, stretch the floor a little bit, and play some pick and roll, some pick and pop, be a solid enough, sound enough rebounder, and said that he was going to be a capable backup. Okay. All right. I could see that and believe that. But then, there's a lot of talk about, well, he had such great numbers playing over in Europe. They were, historical and this and that. And it's like, okay. I'm not one to be skeptical because guys are coming from overseas. At all. If you can play, you can play. There's a lot of it that I'm just wondering if it all translates as high as the NBA level. Meaning, if he's highly productive overseas, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be highly productive over here. And I'm just curious to see exactly what that's going to manifest into here. So I think, again, you talk about a guy that's 2 feet in the paint, confident, shows footwork, counters, finishing ability. I think he shot somewhere around 68% on his 2-point attempts, but he can take some tough shots, unnecessary fadeaways in the post at times, just different shots that even I'm like going back and looking at now while I'm talking to you. But then again, there's definitely some shots in there where it's like, okay, there's some touch there, there's footwork there. Like there's a lot of flashes that you're just like, okay, that's nice. 19-year-old kid. All right. We've got a very interesting base. How sound it is what I question. How sound, and then how much of it can be impactful at the NBA level. Because playing where he's playing at, or was playing at in Turkey, he could take whatever shot he basically wanted. He could put the ball on the floor whenever he wanted. He could take, step back threes when he wanted, pick and pop threes, create in the paint. I mean, all these little flashes of things that he's capable of on film, playing where he played. I'm just wondering how much of it's going to translate over here. I'm not skeptical. I'm very curious. Like, come start of the season, like when he's playing, I want to watch. I'm really intrigued by him more so than anything, if you can't tell. I didn't see a lot in terms of passing that I cared for. I looked at a lot of his turnovers, a lot of his clips, his turnover clips, and, a lot of it came in the form of, passing turnovers, post passing, interior passing, tended to force passes that just either weren't there or just were poor reads on his part. Just not seeing the floor, reading the floor very well. On defense, had some decent lateral quickness here and there. The athleticism we talked about, but it didn't really whatever you think of as athleticism didn't really translate in terms of anything even performative enough for me to really be excited. He definitely had clips where he could block shots and move, coming over and help, when he's already in position. Definitely more of a drop defender, on film, giving himself or being given enough time to, read and react. And with that, he could be in the right position more often than not based on the film that I watched and provide some pretty good help. But none of it really, because again, I'm keeping in mind level of competition and looking at the guys that how they're moving versus what he's doing, and I'm just thinking, okay, this is great at this level. But it's just very intriguing to think about what it's going to look like at the next. Doesn't have a ton of length. Let me see if I can pull up his. This is going to be unofficial because I don't think there was anything officially measured on him that I can recall, and I didn't know anything. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't. This segment is brought to you by being unprepared. When you're unprepared, you end up having a lot of awkward silence on a podcast. All right. Okay. Alperin, Sengun, Wingspan. Let's see if there's anything out there that looks remotely. Okay, there's a lot of stuff being. Yeah. Okay, so 6'9", 6'10" with a 7'1". Okay, so better than I was remembering, because I thought I remembered it being reading somewhere it was 6'10", 6'11". So relative to his size. Still, if it's legitimately 7 foot, because keep in mind this wasn't measured at the combine, so there's nothing official out there that I can read from. I'm just reading off of a couple different sites that I think might be relatively reliable, just in terms of places that I know actually scout versus your SBN Nation type websites that want to gush over these guys because they now belong to the team that draft, the team that they're covering that this player was drafted to. So now they've got to try to make it seem like, oh, this is a great pick. And in any event, so I'd have to get something official. But if it's at least 7 foot, then that's fine. Obviously, if he's going to be a 5, you wouldn't want it to be anything less than that, because you've got plenty of guys who can play 3s and 4s that have damn near 6'10", 6'11". So if you're going to be a 5, you should have about a 7 foot wingspan in today's game. Smaller ball guys, he's probably going to end up being definitely some small ball type 5. And I think there's going to be some in a small ball situation, there'd be more opportunity for him, I think, to be able to use some of that footwork and some of those counters and some of the back to the basket stuff. And as he gets more comfortable, being able to kind of put the ball on the floor, against maybe some lesser defenders who may not be able to challenge him as much on his handle. But again, a lot of this sounds like skepticism coming from me. It's not. I mean, there's a lot of things on film and flashes to like about him. Even defensively, between things like anticipation, some of the shot blocking, being in the right place, providing certain help, and it's like, all right. But a lot of that's, again, performative. How much of it, when you talk about lateral quickness, being able to turn your hips and really defend NBA level athletes, is really going to translate. And then again, offensively, not being able to reliably stretch the floor at this point, not being a guy that's seems to be too much of an adept passer, definitely more has been given more of the green light to score, which isn't necessarily going to be the case at the NBA level. How much of all of this that's good and bad is going to play out. And for me, I'm more curious than I am assured. Because, again, as much as there is to like, there's a lot of stuff that gives you cause for pause. So, in any event, moving on to to the Grizzlies at pick 17. By the way, if you're somebody who is commenting on the channel and you're leaving comments like trash on guys that, trust me, regardless of how bad you think that they are, first of all, you're probably not qualified to call them bad, let's be honest. But just always keep in mind, even if you're going to call a guy who hasn't made it to the NBA or played one game in the NBA just yet trash, I can tell you this. Any of these guys, even the guys I'm skeptical on, will absolutely 100% wash you. Well, they should. Well, if they should, it's like you could take the worst boxer in the world. I'm not going to walk up to that guy and be like, you know what? You don't have knockout power. Because you know what? To a guy who's got an iron chin, he may not have knockout power. But for my ass, he's probably got just enough. So, you keep that in mind when you want to sit there and be like, well, you're the 12th guy off the bench. Like, okay, you know what? Go fuck yourself. Especially when you're going to talk about guys who haven't even stepped foot in the league yet. That's shit. And that's automatically going to get you blocked on the channel. I don't give a damn. I wouldn't care if you were paying for access to the channel. I'd still block you. And I'd gladly not take the $15 a month or whatever the hell it was. Whatever. I don't need that shit on the channel. So if you're going to be one of those people, please know your comment's going to be erased. You're going to be blocked. And that's all there is to it. And I've had to do it. I always have to do it. Every week I've got something I need to erase, somebody I need to block. Because you get these analysts that want to jump on the channel and kill these guys. Because, oh, he's terrible. Thanks. That's really helpful. Anyway, the reason I bring that up because as I'm sitting here, my phone buzzes, and I'm thinking it might be something important because I'm kind of paying attention to my phone for a particular reason, and so I look and see what it is, and it's just a stupid YouTube comment. Like, come on, you don't have anything better? It's literally right now. It's 10:43 at night on a Sunday. You either must be unemployed or extremely bored. Or extremely lonely. One of the three. Relax. Anyway, the Grizzlies, 17 with Trey Murphy. Going to the Pelicans. Look, again, talking about guys who have an immediate NBA fit. Trey Murphy is another guy for me that I was happy to see him rise up on draft boards because I thought, this was somebody that coming out of that Virginia style of play. They've always tended to have a wing that looks to have that NBA prototype wing. Can shoot off the catch, can tack closeouts, relatively quick to release, moves without the ball, cuts are, excellent, different things, and then being able to come in, and defend with good lateral quickness. You've got the length. He's got a 7-foot wingspan. Can guard on the move, make plays on the move, active, alert. There's certainly little things with Trey Murphy that certainly can be better. As he continues to mature, reading, reacting at the NBA level, but being able to fit in a role where he can shoot off the catch, guard multiple positions, game slows down, being able to read and react better, make defensive plays, but also be in the right position, be able to play off the ball on the offensive end, make timely cuts, get out a glue guy, but also who can be a 3-and-D guy. I think Trey Murphy can find his way into that role. So that is the reason why I'm not spending a ton of time. I'm just going to try to get through these as best as possible. Thunder at 18, select Trey Mann. Bring up Oklahoma City again real quick. All right, so I've again Trey is another Florida high school kid, and so I've had the opportunity to watch him basically since his freshman year as well. He's always been a fun shot creator to watch. I certainly would like to see him continue to evolve as a creator for others. I think he's got a good enough handle to find ways to do that. Showed it in flashes here and there, some pick and roll stuff and whatnot at Florida, but for the most part, I think that's a part of his game that can be explored even more. And at this stage in the draft, you're really just hoping to find guys that can come off of your bench and be guys who can either fit a specialty within your second unit. So I think, for the most part, in terms of scoring, he can do that. Theo Maledon did that pretty well. Lugenstort has done that pretty well. But there's not much else in terms of, shot creation opportunities, outside of those two. And so, I think for me, I've liked Trey Mann as far as a shot creator in this draft. Not incredibly high on him, but I like enough of his shot creation to be all right with him as a top 20 draft pick. Certainly, if I really look at the entirety of the rest of the first round, you could argue a Bones Highland. I'm probably a little more partial to maybe Cam Thomas, depending upon if you're strictly looking for a scorer. Jaden Springer, So, yeah, I mean, there's some guys behind him that certainly could have gone that way. But again, as I've mentioned, there's not a lot of two-way guys and a lot of guys who are going to make a huge impact, an impact on both ends of the floor in this draft. And furthermore, there's not a lot of guys that are just coming in with, beyond one NBA skill that's going to allow them to play at this level. Trey's superpower coming in is being able to create shots and score. So, there's certainly some guys I could have foreseen, going ahead of him. But in any event, the Thunder have been a team that, I'll say this, the Thunder have been a team that I've learned to have some respect for in terms of who they draft. I'm always intrigued and interested to see how it's going to come to fruition. So I'm glad for Trey on that front. Glad on another front to see another young man that I've watched for a long time get to this stage and be able to have this opportunity. So from that standpoint, all is well with me. I think again, there's still a lot to be desired out of his game. So again, it's why you're not getting a whole lot of. I'm excited for this pick type of thing. I mean, there's guys drafted after him that I definitely probably would have taken a look at. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. All right, so the Knicks trade their draft pick at 19 to the Hornets. Hornets then select Kai Jones out of Orlando Christian Prep, out of Texas. Another Florida player, high school, and eventually went to Brewster Academy and whatnot. So some of you may know him from that if you followed him at all at the high school ranks. But he was here with us first, folks. Orlando Christian Prep was about 10 minutes up the road from me. So good on him for that. And also, Nasir Little, who was over with Portland, played there as well. So good high school, multiple times, state champion, long history of state championships at Orlando Christian Prep. So just figured I'd mention that since I'm giving a lot of Florida plugs in this draft because I'm just super excited to see a lot of these guys get opportunities. So anyway, talking about Kai Jones because look, I have a lot of love and not love with Kai Jones. I'll start with defense because I think that's where some people may assume a lot out of on that side versus what's the reality. So, looking at this film, I'm not always very impressed with his lateral quickness. How quickly, be able to turn his hips, being able to stay low, slide his feet, ready to go when a guy's, ready to attack the rim. Obviously his wingspan and the pop that he can have off of the floor can all be an asset for him to erase any mistakes that he, allows for himself because maybe he gets beat off or he takes the wrong angle or he doesn't close out well enough. So he's got an eraser in terms of his wingspan. But I think it's going to be extremely important for him. I mean, it's important for anybody who plays in the NBA, but guys who can really learn to anticipate, read, and react, especially when you have, physical tools that not everybody has, developing that area of your game is super helpful because the more you're in the right position, the more you can make those plays from a performative standpoint with your length and your athleticism. And there's just a lot of times where either he might not be in the right position or maybe it's a situation where, again, he's not low, he's not sliding his feet well enough. And a lot of that can be, improved upon over time. And there's certainly times where he does do those things fairly well. But there's still plenty of hit and miss in that situation. So defensively, there are going to be some people on paper that are going to be excited about him. But I wouldn't necessarily say excitement is fair at this point. There's just a lot to drill down on and correct and evolve in before you can really get excited on that side of the ball. Now, in terms of offense, him being a lob target, corner 3-point shooting, these things I think can be areas in which he can, either be decent at in terms of the corner 3-point shooting, or good at when you're talking about being a lob target. Not a big time, athlete in terms of pop, but again, just enough to where, again, you combine it with his length, always going to be a lob target. But in terms of, having a preference and what else he wants to do, I think it'd be even helpful for him at times where, he can be used as a cutter. He'll want to take some mid-range pull-ups at times that just aren't there for him just yet. But I like the fact that he's willing to take them. But it's just not there. His handling, his decision-making, making decisions on the move, all areas that were pretty common when it came to him committing turnovers. The common themes, court awareness as well. Just again being aware of where to be in the right situations. But again, the physical tools is something that can help him at times. But there's not a lot right now that is just going to be off the charts, immediate NBA translation. It's a lot of little bit of this here and there, this there. It's like, okay, use this length, got a block on the move, cool. Transition into the floor pretty well, got a dunk, got it. Comes back down, gets in a switch on a guard, gives up a layup, because again, maybe doesn't slide his feet well enough, and then another deep possession comes, and he's able to slide his feet just enough because he's able to get the right angle, start back far enough, and cut his man off to where some of that can play out well for him. But I think overall, it's one of these deals where there's a lot of little things that need to still be put together. A lot of raw ability. Kai has always had a lot of raw ability, and some of that has started to turn the corner in terms of his 3-point shooting, comfort, pulling up and taking jumpers, running the floor and being able to be, use some of the performance instinctual stuff to block and contest shots. Like, again, there's a lot of nice flashes, but there's still so much to be pieced together and before the whole game comes to. But I'm somebody that coming into this draft has been reasonably having reasonable expectations of what his upside can be. If you told me that he was going to end up being a rotation guy that's coming off the bench, wouldn't surprise me. If you also told me that at some point he could turn the corner and be, a fairly decent starter on a non-playoff team, I could see that too. So again, there's a lot that needs to be put together, and it's just it's not all there yet, and it's one of these things to where, again, raw ability and flashes, that takes time, and so. In any event, we move on to pick 20 by the Hawks, Jalen Johnson. Jalen, for me, going from someone who is more raw in Kai Jones to Jalen Johnson, who I think is more ready-made. You're talking about a guy at his size, 6'9", 220, with his wingspan that, comfortable handling the ball, comfortable shooting off the catch, comfortable creating his own shot, at least on the drive and whatnot. I think some of his passings, in terms of people who just would gush over his passing. I'm not one of those. I think he makes the simple look simple, as he needs to. And then there's other passes where you're like, okay, that was nice. You can, that skip pass, seeing that pass from the post, good on you. But I think a lot of it's, we're making it seem as if he's out here just, making one-handed skip passes on the regular, and I just think some of it's just being oversold. But I mean, certainly a good passer. I'm not gonna sit here and gush but this is a team that is going to have John Collins coming back. Danilo Gallinari's been there. I'd have to look up Solomon Hill's situation with them and how long that's going to last, but there's certainly some guys here, and I think obviously Jalen Johnson's more adept at playing, the floor, what you would consider the four, right? So, again, I like it. I like the pick. I thought he probably could have gone higher. Obviously I don't know what all of the, when you look at, I don't have any intel on him or any of these guys for the most part. Some guys, yes, some guys, no. But I don't know what would have really caused him necessarily to slide this far back. Because I just thought, just in terms of modern NBA, unless you just didn't believe in his defensive versatility enough to combine with some of the things offensively. Offensively, it's not a situation where he's got anything that's like a go-to. Limited number of 3-point attempts, but he shot 44%. But he also shot 63% from the foul line. He's comfortable playing in the mid-post, facing up and driving, passing, shooting from those areas. Can shoot, around the baseline on the fades, at the nail. Again, we mentioned the passing. I thought he was pretty productive just in terms of scoring and rebounding. Seemed to certainly have a nose for the ball a little bit in terms of being able to collect rebounds. But there wasn't anything that I think he's one of these guys that falls into a category for me that's good at a lot, but nothing's standout-ish. Now, the defensive versatility could be that. And if you're really high on his passing, it could be that. There's certainly defensive clips that I've watched of him in games I've watched of him where his defense was pretty stout. But it's also one of these things where his length and his read and react time on defense was also good, along with some of the performative things he can do from a blocks and steals standpoint. So I don't know necessarily that there would have been teams that may not have been as reasonably high on his defense. So I can only surmise that maybe it was just the offense. Looking at the free throws and saying, well, limited threes, so he maybe doesn't stretch the floor reliably. And then if he's just a mid-post or low-post guy, that's not really what our game is about. And then when we look at his handle, it's good, especially for his size. But, Is he going to be a guy that's going to have the ball in his hands and able to play pick and roll for us? No. And in Atlanta, no. So I would surmise that Atlanta was probably giddy when he fell to them, because they were probably like, oh, we can get a guy that had top 10 talent, who's versatile defensively, who can also do some other things on offense that, especially if Atlanta is in the camp that they believe in his shot and what it can be. Especially when you're in practice every day with guys like Bogdan and Herter and Trey, yeah, at some point, and Danilo and Cam Reddish, like, you got guys who are comfortable taking threes. At some point, even if your shot's not really quite there behind closed doors, it can get there. So I was a little taken aback that he fell to 20. So I'm just curious as to what the reasoning behind it was. But all right, the Knicks trade their draft pick at 21 to the Clippers. They eventually take Keon Johnson. I like Keon Johnson. I do. Let's put the athleticism aside for a second, and we'll talk about that, because I mean it's not just noteworthy. It's excellent. It's really good. It's weird. Before the combine and really knowing what his true height and wingspan was, he always felt bigger than what he measured out to be. He eventually measured out to be 6'4" with shoes, 6'7" wingspan. It's nothing to scoff at. It always just seemed like, and probably because of his burst and just how willing he was to pressure guys defensively, and how much he can, make certain rotations, just made you feel like he plays big. I think for him offensively, the handle's not there, which results in him having to take jump shots that he probably doesn't want to take if he had better handle. But I think it's also helped him in terms of, even as his handle gets better, which it's going to have to, being able to take some of these shots comfortably, either in the lane, mid post, at the nail type jump shots that he likes to take and has taken, on some of these like little short curls and whatnot when he was at Tennessee. I certainly think can be things that he can go back to as he evolves as a ball handler. 27% I think it was from threes, certainly not encouraging at all. But as a cutter and a lob target, his ability to explode off the floor and play above the rim, and his body control, his explosion, his athleticism is top notch. Body control is good, and so I think really to unlock him, and it's this way for a lot of young guys, it's really going to be the ball handling. Because if you can't handle it at the NBA level, it's not only is it hard to get to the rim anyway, but if you just don't even have, he's got a decent floater, but I don't think it's going to be the thing that is going to be the defining go-to shot in his repertoire for his for his paint scoring. And aside from that, his feel as a passer, his decision making, is just not there right now. And so, offensively, there's a lot of limitations. So being creative with essentially how you use him is going to be paramount. But defensively, I really enjoy him. Quick reactions, makes and covers a lot of ground that isn't typical. He does it. I mean, he's not always a head on the swivel guy, but he's pretty aware of what's going on in and around him. And he's more than willing to help on digs and to stop drives and things of that nature. And I think his tools athletically, and then you mix in the length. It's again, it's nothing to scoff at, but it's also nothing to write home about. I just think his ability to read and react, to rotate, how quickly he can do certain things. Obviously, he's twitchy as an athlete. Quick feet, quick hands. There's going to be a lot of performative stuff that'll show up in the box score for him, but also on film there'll be some really good rotations too, where you're just like, wow, okay, that's really good. So I like him. I mean, to get a guy like that at 21, I thought was was a good get for sure. All right. So that's the Clippers pick at 21 of Keon Johnson. At 22, Lakers make a trade, and then that pick is traded again, I believe. So Isaiah Jackson gets picked 22 overall to the Wizards. Let me just pull up their depth chart here. Let's see. Wizards. Okay. Hold on. Jackson and there. All right. Okay. Because I'm just trying to figure out how this all... NBA.com, I don't think this has this correct, so I'm just trying to remember exactly where he ended up at. Okay. So Lakers had the pick, traded to Washington, and then Wizards traded Jackson to the Pacers. Okay, that's right. Okay. I was going to say, because I didn't really see a need for him in Washington, so why would that happen? All right, that makes sense. Go to the Pacers. All right, there we go. All right, a lot of draft night trades. Some of this stuff I'm just having to remember in the moment. So, Pacers getting Isaiah Jackson. I mean, Isaiah is lauded for his ability to block shots and defend the rim. It's it's uncanny how quickly he can get off the floor. Aside from that, I don't know, how excited you can be with this pick at 22. Has some vertical floor spacing ability because of what he can do as far as a lob threat, as far as being in the dunker spot. Show some flashes at time to be able to face up and shoot the mid range. Baseline elbow areas. Puts the ball on the floor here and there. A lot of little flashes offensively. Short right hook, in lanes in his arsenal. But again, a lot of flashes. He hasn't been a three-point threat much at all, even going back to high school. So, stretching the floor is doesn't appear to be in the cards. So, there's times even around the rim where it's required touch that, the finishing wasn't quite there. So for me, shot blocking, rebounding here and there, I just think it's a rim protection thing, specialty. Because to me, he's still very much raw into who he is. It's the athleticism is you can't deny it. I mean, he's a fucking freak athlete. And the rim protection's clearly there. But outside of that, I mean, it's, there's not a ton there just yet. A lot of flashes, again, like we mentioned with Kai Jones, and like we've mentioned with a few other players as we've gone along here. It's just there's a lot that needs to be honed. There's a lot that needs to be put together, worked out, and again, yes, surprise, I'm saying that about rookies. I know, I get that. Somebody's sitting there like, hey, remember who you're talking about. No shit. Yeah, no, I get it. But again, it's really just trying to figure out, figure out exactly what help guys can provide. Because, part of it for me is that, with Turner constantly out, and Sabonis being able to play some five, especially offensively. I mean, he can play the 4 or the 5 offensively, but, they draft Goga Batadze, and, I mean, I don't know what his deal is. The minutes that this guy is getting is few and far between, and that, for me, is a little baffling when you're talking about guys getting maybe 10, 12 minutes a game. That I thought when he was playing overseas, as he was getting drafted, I thought, this could be a reliable backup. I don't know what's going on in practice or behind the scenes that's not allowing him to get minutes, but neither here nor there. To me, he's better offensively. He can still block shots. And so I don't know if this is a situation where it's like, well, we'll add more depth to our front court. Okay, maybe. But, maybe they're seeing some other things in practice day to day that's making them feel like, Goga's just not there. So, there's a lot of limitations here with adding Jackson. But the athleticism can't be denied. The shot blocking can't be denied. Everything outside of that is a work in progress. So, in any event, as you can tell, I like to just cut through the bullshit. I think I'm going to get ready to wrap some of this up. I think I'll go over a few more guys and we'll kind of wrap this up. Usman Garuba, I think, is a interesting case. Extremely offensively limited. Can't really shoot it. Doesn't really want to shoot it. Plays more like a 5, but he's 6'8". It's just very. Let me just pull something up on him real quick. Okay. All right. So, Usman Garuba. For me, this is a guy that defensively, the footwork is interesting, to put it nicely. He certainly moves well. Like, the things that are said about him defensively have merit. And it's certainly things that over time can be improved upon and worked on and whatnot. But he's got times where if you look at like a closeout, for example, he's not on balance. His feet are out of, just out of place. He's reaching. But then you'll look at another clip, sliding his feet quickly, containing well. And he's showing some solid technique, but overall his technique is just weird. He's basically an undersized front court player who can't stretch the floor. And there's just nothing. He's not a big pop guy. Like, he's not like a dunker spot guy or a big lob target guy. He just doesn't have that kind of pop off the floor like that. Give him a runway and a landing strip like a lot of these guys. Yeah, you'll see some things. But in terms of playing around NBA length and closing up that lane and being able to have play against guys who are reading, reacting, and really contesting you, like I just don't see it for him. He's kind of positionless in a bad way. Where do you put him? And if he can eventually gain confidence and shoot it, that can clear some things up. Certainly think he's more of a longer term prospect. But I like a lot of the activity and motor that I saw from him. And I think it can translate as he cleans up a lot of the technique. But he's just, offensively, he's just so limited. And, if there was even just something offensively, redeeming, like passing or something that I could grasp, it'd be like, all right, there were times where, like, I'd see him, like, in some pick and roll stuff where, again, he'd have some time and space to kind of load up and, he'd get a pocket pass, for example, and then he could finish it, like, at the rim, above the rim. But it was just, like, you understood that, like, his main, his main redeeming quality was what he could do defensively and the things he could get away with. Like, I'm watching some film on him now. He can be hesitant to shoot it, but he's not going to just be like, oh, the hell with it, I'm not shooting it. Like, first clip out the gate, but there's, he's not afraid to put his body into anybody and bang on the inside. It's just the vertical pop's not there, but he'll take contact. But how well he can finish through it time in and time out, especially because he is undersized, especially at the NBA level, it remains to be seen. There's a lot to left to be desired, frankly. And can guard in space, has some pretty quick hands, but you go to watch him handle it, and it's not there. Like, so if he gets a steal, he's better off just looking for a guard, like, ASAP and just getting it to him and being done with it. There's nothing on offense that, like, I can grab onto that I'm like, yeah, wait till that evolves, and when that evolves, holy shit, So, maybe it's my lack of imagination. I don't know. But I certainly can see what people like about him defensively. But again, there's a lot of technique stuff that just needs to be ironed out. And, over time, I think that the defensive part of it can, a reasonable amount of it can come to fruition. And my hope would be, honestly, given his current offensive output, that either they can find ways for him to be paired with a guard who can create enough space for him to be able to load up in the dunker spot, or preferably and that he can eventually get to a point where he can shoot it off the catch, at least from the corners. Some folks want to compare his defense to Draymond, and I'll slap you if you ever say that to me in person. I would hope at best his ceiling can be of a PJ Tucker, corner 3-point shooter who could guard different positions. Maybe not all the way up to the 5, but guard enough positions. Clean up the technique first, and then be able to guard let's say 1 through 4, and then as he gets more comfortable, maybe some small ball 5 type stuff. But it's bad on offense, man. It's bad. It's bad. So anyway, having said all that, enjoy, Rockets fans. Anyway, all right. All right, 24. Oh, the Rockets again. Well, Josh Christopher. Yeah, I watched quite a bit on Josh today. All right, let's click off this. This is starting to make me queasy. All right, Josh Christopher. All right, Josh Christopher. So, offensively throughout high school, I'd always hear all these great things about Josh. Well deserved. He can score. Watching him at Arizona State, a little bit different experience, but still some good flashes of things that you like. Physically, I like the frame. 6'4", 218, +5 wingspan. Good place to start. Shot making and play making. There's things to like. There's things to just Control Alt Delete. Knowing when to shoot and drive in terms of shot making, and when to pass and what passes to make. He's just not always there yet. You can tell he plays with a lot of instinct, right? I know I can get this shot off, and here's how. Even if you don't like the end result or the way in which I did it, here's how I can do it. And you're like, okay, but you could have, instead of trying to MacGyver a shot out of all this, you could have created something a little less strenuous. Maybe a driving kick would have been better here. Maybe a pull-up would have been better there. Maybe actually getting all the way through the lane and through that driving lane would have been better here. A lot of that. Just learning to attack in smart ways. And not just knowing where your spots are, but knowing how to exploit and get to those spots. Definitely has tunnel vision. He's locked in to score. That's who he is. At some point, though, when he's getting cut off and the defense is committed, recognizing open shooters is going to be must. It's not a hope. It's a must. It's footwork, decision making, handle, being indecisive at times, predetermining, all are areas for him offensively that are really either underdeveloped or just areas that are operated more by instinct than basketball skill. And then defensively, reading the floor defensively. Like, look, his ability to pop off the floor is good. So there's going to be some performative things that he's going to be able to do that are going to be like, damn, he's a good athlete. Oh, shit, you see that cut to the rim? That was a nice finish. Did you see that block? Damn, that was nice. He's got that. Like, you look at his film, he's got that. But knowing when to, like, being instinctual and knowing and being an athlete, or being an IQ and awareness and someone who's reading the floor, completely different level of player when you're talking about playing at the professional level. Like, Josh Christopher can just figure out how to go get you a bucket. That I don't worry about. Like, he can figure something out. Again, you may not like how he eventually decided that he got there, but he'll get there. But there was just times where I'd see him, like, take some shots. Like, you see the Kobe memes, and you're just like, okay, there's how many sets of eyes on Kobe, and he took this shot, and there was 2 other guys. Now, you get to a certain level, you can make those decisions and look at everybody else like, go fuck yourself. But we're not talking about that, with Josh Christopher just yet. So I respect his pedigree as far as a 5-star athlete coming out of high school. And I respect the fact that, like, instinctually, he can hoop. He can go out there and score you a bucket. But in terms of actually playing the game, instincts combined with athleticism combined with IQ is dangerous. Instincts combined with nothing more than instincts is also dangerous, but not in a positive way. It can be dangerous in the way where it's like, unless the performative things outweigh the mistakes, which they won't, it's hard to keep you on the floor. Now, if these things can be ironed out, and I really hope they can, because I know I might be saying a lot of negative shit, but I really like watching this guy play. Like, no bullshit. I hope, as you're listening to this, like, you can just tell. Like, I'm just gonna tell you what I think and what the film's showing me. Doesn't mean I'm gonna be right every time. I'm certainly gonna miss. Okay? Anybody in this industry that tells you they get it right all the time, yeah, okay. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But, again, there's a lot here that has to be worked on, but I hope it gets worked out. I really do. Because, part of the thing that was a little discouraging to me, that it felt like people were just like, okay, we're low on this guy because look, at some level, you have to accept a player for who they are. I don't care if they've been in the league 10 years. I don't care if they've been in the league 10 minutes. At some level, you have to accept a player as they are. And I think Josh Christopher is going to kind of fall into that category where he is who he is. There's going to be things that you really enjoy. There's going to be other things you're just like, wow, okay. Yeah, that was bad. But part of that's being young, and that part of that's being, raw and instinctual versus high IQ and skilled. But if he can evolve to that enough and combine it with the instincts and the athleticism, you have something. So to me, this is an upside pick on a guy who's proven to be a skilled scorer. At each level he's played at. So, I'm intrigued, to say the least. But, that's basically the extent of it. All right. Do I want to keep going or do I want to wrap this up? All right, I'll speak on one more player. Well, first of all, let me just say, I love that Bones Hyland went in the first round. Should have, did. Kudos on the Nuggets, who I think is another smart drafting team. That's one. Two, Cam Thomas is going to figure out a way to score in this league, point blank, period. You may not like you may not always like the shot attempts, but he can score. So, now, people say, well, Nets don't necessarily need it. Yeah, I get that. But, I don't think the Nets are going to be like in the 7th game of the Eastern Conference Finals, like, well, shit, we really needed Cam Thomas to hit. No, that's not going to happen. So, let's pump the brakes on whether or not they needed it. Like, bottom line, it's coming off the bench. It kind of is what it is. But I think eventually he's going to figure out, a way to make his imprint as far as a score. He's done it. I mean, he's undeniable in that way. Just is. Bones Hyland's the same way. Anyway, a draft Twitter darling that I'll finish this off with that I do agree with on 100% is Jaden Springer. I thought Jaden Springer should have went much higher. Yeah, I do. I watched Tennessee throughout the season, and I did not remember him having the defensive impact that I eventually saw when I went back and watched the film. And I liked him. I got to see him a handful of times when he came down to IMG, play live, and was intrigued by him then. But now at this point, I think the 76ers would have been another team who, if we're being honest, has done a good job drafting the last handful of years. They got a steal. Yeah, they really did. And so I'm a guy who, if you are a rookie coming into this league, you need to figure out the defensive end. And for some guys, it's going to take longer. Other guys, not so much. But at some point, you need to figure it out enough, depending upon your role, obviously. If you're playing in the second unit, you're playing, some lower tier NBA guys. I mean, it may not be as paramount for you to figure out that end of the floor, especially if you're a specialty guy within the second unit. But if you want to work your way up the lineup, I'm just of the mindset that high IQ play on both ends is going to be something that is very helpful. But then on the back end of it, you could be a Matisse Thybulle, since we're talking about the Sixers. You can be a Matisse Thybulle and be a high IQ defender, but offensively it's just not there, so it's hard to put you on the floor all the time. Jaden Springer, however, does not have that issue. He's a scoring guard. It's an excellent interior passer, good finisher, has a nice pull-up mid-range game, and is a good three-point shooter. It's being said that whatever pre-draft stuff he showed was impressive, but I guess not impressive enough. I don't know. I personally can't figure it out, and I'm not a draft Twitter guy in terms of let me jump into the think tank. There's definitely some smart people within draft Twitter, absolutely. My hat's off to them. They know who they are, and then there's some that are delusional and think they know who they are, but whatever. So having said that, but yeah, no, this Jaden Springer should have been higher. I'm not going to sit up here and, well, you should have been, I don't. At some point, I really don't give a damn, what number you're drafted at. I really don't. Obviously, if you've got a lottery pick, you want to knock that out of the park. But after that, it's all tomato. It really is. I mean, your goal is to find somebody you hope will make your rotation. And if you eventually are good enough to become a playoff team, good enough to then make your playoff rotation, since it's shorter. Yeah. But that's the one guy throughout this whole draft process that I thought, yeah, you guys are right on this one. Absolutely. And that's not to say that's the only one. I'm just saying, that was the one that, folks were staking their, planting their flag firmly in the ground and willing to die on that hill. That hill I will gladly support. I don't die on any hills, but I'll gladly support that hill from afar. So, I'll close it with that. I could go into Day'Ron Sharpe and Santi Aldama and, all that. But here's what I'll say. If you enjoyed this, as I mentioned at the top of the podcast during the intro, I need people to go in and rate, subscribe, comment, and leave positive feedback and get this thing moving. If I could do it myself, I'd do it myself. I can't. So I need you to do it. If you're listening to this and you've listened to this for however long I've been yammering, first of all, thank you. And second of all, you're the people that eventually make content for any creator move. So I need that from you all. If there's enough feedback on this thing to encourage me to continue to post more regularly, I will. But if there's not, then I'll just post whenever I feel like I have enough to say. And leave it at that. Because I certainly would love to have a weekly thing. But I did sports talk radio here in Orlando for a little over a year. I've done podcasts, since even before they were super fashionable, before everybody and your barber had one. So I've been doing it a long time. I might say a lot and other unintellectual bullshit, but I'll put together a quality show if the support's there. If not, I don't mind just coming on here and just talking hoops and logging off, uploading it, and continuing about my day. So it really, your feedback is really the thing that makes this thing go. It's not me. It's your reaction to me. Because if your reaction is poor, at least if there is something of substance to it and not just some rantings or musings of somebody pissed off on the internet, I can figure some things out. Get some guests on that can provide more context than I can or I do, because as you can tell, I'm more of a watch the film, but it doesn't mean I don't pay attention to. There's folks out there putting together quality work. Initially when I was planning this, I was looking at getting Simon from Shot Quality. If you're not following Shot Quality on Twitter at Shot Quality, you're missing out. The content that they're putting out and the things that they're putting together is really good. And so not only follow them, but really check out and subscribe to what they're doing. And I don't say that lightly. But there's people like that. They're putting together fantastic things out there that my only requirement is if you're going to put anything out there that just adds context to the film, to the game, versus you're trying to get a number that doesn't really add much context. But again, this is all driven by you. So if you want more of this, I have to see the sort of reaction that is going to warrant it. If it's not there, then there's really no driving force that makes me get up and say I need a podcast today. Because I can just do these whenever. And I do all my own stuff. Everything you see on the YouTube, it's all done by me. I had somebody do the intro for me on this podcast. He recorded it. I paid him for it, and that's it. Everything else is me. So, I'm certainly happy to create more content and sit here and talk basketball. Love doing it. Same point in time, I got a lot of things I need to be doing on a daily basis. So, putting out free content doesn't always rank high. Even if it's content I love doing just for the shits and giggles of doing it. But the support's got to be there. Right, and on your end, you're saying, well, hey, you've got to create something that we want to support. Very true. So hopefully this is something you've enjoyed. I went into this wanting to be loose. I like to be loose. I don't want to be too overly formal or structured or, formulaic. Okay, this is how we're going to do it. Top of the show, we do this. Middle segment, we do that. I did that in radio. I did that. I get it. I know that game. But podcasting is different. Podcasting is meant to be more of a conversation. So if I'm not going to have a guest and it's just going to be me and you, then I'm going to talk like this because, let me just be honest, if we're sitting here talking basketball and I'm supposed to be somebody who knows about these prospects, for example, then I'm gonna talk to you in a way that's not meant to flood your brain with numbers. I'm not trying to convince you that these guys are going to be this or that. It's not my job. Eventually, their performance on the floor will do that. It's not my job to do it. It's not anybody's job who does this to do that. It's not my job to make you, as a fan, feel better about their picks. Oh, well, how would you grade our draft? Hey, the grade is going to be in what these guys eventually do. I could sit there and think, oh, well, both their picks were great, and then only one of them pans out, or neither one of them really pan out. So what's really the point? And I'm going to just give you my opinion. Let me just give it to you straight and unfiltered. Versus, well, here's my grade, and here's why. Or here's my big board, even though I'm never going to be drafting. Or here's my mock draft. All of it ends up being just somebody who's just, trying to convince you that their ranking's better than the next person. It doesn't do anything for you. All it does is say, oh, I respect their opinion more than the next guy. Okay. You can certainly do that. You can certainly choose. Look, a lot of the basketball people that I love talking to aren't thinking about mock drafts and big boards. And yet, they could watch a player play and break them down just as good, if not better. So, I've come from the school of cut the shit and let's get down to brass tacks. I don't want to overthink this stuff because it's not in me to overthink. But at the same point in time, if I'm going to put thought into it, I'm going to give it to you the way that I know to give it to you. But I'm also not going to just sit there and say, well, my opinion is law. It's, I'm going to be wrong on some of these guys. But your favorite guy that puts out all the numbers and crunches it and does this and that, they're going to miss too. They're going to miss big. We all do. If they're being honest with you, they'll tell you they're misses. If they're not, they're probably not worth listening to. Just being honest. Anybody who will bullshit you over something as simple as scouting, they're full of shit anyway. So, leave them alone. In any event, like, comment, subscribe, go on to iTunes, especially Spotify, especially, and anything you can do. Follow whatever they allow you to do, whatever that platform allows you to do. Subscribe, like, comment, follow, whatever. Please do it. Your support and your reaction is what tells me if this is even something that it even matters, even remotely. Even if it only matters to 100 people, if I can tell that it matters to 100 people, that gives me energy. You know, I'm not somebody that needs, I need, 1 million clicks. I'm good. Would I like to get to that? Absolutely. But am I going to sit up here and be like, oh my God. Oh, did you see? Oh, the number. Oh, look. A lot of you barely watch the film I put out there. I'll put 3 hours worth of film on a guy, and the average viewer's watching like 20 minutes. Maybe less. So, in any event, I appreciate you. I do. I know I talk very frank, but this is how I talk when it comes to basketball. I'm very frank, and let's just cut the shit. I want all of these guys to follow their dreams and do well, even the guys I'm not high on. I hope they prove me fucking wrong. This is their dream, man. Like, honestly, what asshole would I ever be for me to be like, well, I hope I'm right? Would I, do I want to be right? Is this a business of accuracy? Of course it is. But at the same point in time, I'm not rooting for my correctness. If a guy I'm not particularly high on makes a team better, great. Maybe we'll start to see more small market teams in the NBA Finals. Or teams that are labeled League Pass teams, now they're becoming, national stories, and we need to watch them week in and week out. I'd love that. So all these guys, I say congratulations. It's fucking hard to do what you just did. Regardless of what your career turns out to be, even if you end up having to play overseas, you're forever going to be able to get paid to play a game. What an accomplishment. So, with that, I bid you all adieu. Take care. God bless you. Please support the podcast as best as humanly possible. And I will see you again on another episode of the Prospect Pod. Take care.